you guys hear me? Okay, let's see. Okay, hold on. Why isn't the desktop audio playing? Let's see if this... Actually, hold on. Oh. Interesting, the live stream has no audio. Come on, Tesla, what's going on? Alright, let's check to make sure the live stream is working. Huh. For some reason... I wonder if the link I posted on Facebook changed. Here, let's do this. Reload this page. What the heck, man? What is going on with Tesla's website? Let me make sure that it's not something on my end. see. Alright, I'm gonna send everybody. Come on. Oh no, is there something going on? Oh my gosh, it is taxing the hell out of my system though. Okay. Come on. Oh, looks like it's actually starting this time.
Introduce Tesla's co-founder and CEO,
There we go.
Elon Musk, who'll give a presentation about the company update and year in review. And then following the conclusion of the stockholder meeting,
Here
we'll
we
start our
go.
separate Battery Day event. At this time, I'd like to thank the members of the Tesla team and our board, especially those who were able to make it out here in person today, as well as to our representative from PricewaterhouseCoopers, Tesla's independent auditor, who's also here. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Robin Denholm, the chairwoman of Tesla, who would like to say a few words remotely.
Thank you, Al. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2020 Tesla shareholder meeting. A special welcome to the many Tesla shareholders that have joined us today in person, as well as online from across the country and around the globe. I wanted to start today's proceedings by thanking you, our shareholders, for your tremendous support over the last year, and especially to those of you who have been with us through our journey over the past 10 years since the company's IPO in 2010. While we have stayed true to our mission of accelerating the world's transition to sustainable energy, in many ways, our company has evolved beyond recognition over the past decade, and that is a great thing. In fact, the pace of developments and the evolution of Tesla has further accelerated over the past 15 months since I last addressed you in June of 2019. You'll hear more about many of the specific achievements from Elon later in the agenda, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of our Tesla employees across the globe who have done a tremendous job of executing and staying focused on delivering for our customers and shareholders as the world has gone through one of the most challenging periods in our lifetimes. As a board, we have always taken a long-term view. We have made decisions and supported decisions made by the management team that may not have seemed obvious at the time, but are delivering and will continue to deliver breakthrough results. But it's also important to remember why we do this. As a company, we are focused on addressing one of the biggest environmental challenges of our generation: how to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. The last year in particular has seen a tremendous increase in momentum in the movement to sustainable energy from both shareholders and the general public. So in addition to developing amazing clean transportation and energy products, we are doing our part by contributing the right facts and information to this important issue. And we released an extended version of our impact report in April of 2020. In this year's version, we have covered in great detail many areas that are important to our shareholders and our customers alike, such as our environmental impact, greenhouse and other noxious gas elimination, our supply chain efforts, especially in cobalt, and our culture and people focus. We hope that by continuing to put this data out there, we will underscore to the world the importance and impact that we are having as a company. Lastly, continuous feedback and input from our shareholders is essential for us to do our jobs, and I would like to thank you for your support in this regard. Many of you have provided me and the team with ideas and insights that we as a board take into consideration as we evolve our governance and company practices. It's especially crucial to the board members as we pride ourselves in adaptability and the diversity of thought and experience that we collectively represent on the board. This brings me to my final two things today. As today is his last shareholder meeting, on behalf of the board, I would like to sincerely thank Steve Jurvetson for over a decade of service to Tesla, the board, and our shareholders. You will be missed. Finally, I would like to introduce to you our newest member of the board, Hiro Mizuno, who until recently led the largest pension fund in the world. He brings a wealth of experience to the board.
Nice.
But let me
He's a good
hand
addition to
over
the board.
Hiro to say a few words. Hiro.
Thank you, Robin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tesla Annual Shareholders Meeting. It is my real pleasure to virtually meet you, Tesla shareholders, people who believe in Tesla's mission and its growth opportunities. I spent all my career in finance and asset management in Tokyo, New York, London, and Silicon Valley. Until recently, I was a chief investment officer of GPIF, $1.5 trillion Japanese public pension fund. And one of my priorities as an investment chief was to promote responsible investments, which aim to make financial returns while pursuing ESG agenda, such as environment and social issues. I believe in the market where ESG is becoming mainstream, purpose or mission-driven businesses will gain long-term investors' support. This is why I was interested in Tesla, where mission is to accelerate the world transition to sustainable energy. I'm very excited to join the Tesla team on that journey and hope to assist Tesla deliver what investors expect by further enhancing its environmental and social impact. Once again, Tesla shareholders, thanks for your support. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin and Hiro. I will now call the meeting to order. Please refer to the meeting agenda that has been provided to you and posted also to our virtual meeting site. The time is now 1:49 p.m. Pacific time, and I declare that the polls are now open. We've already received voting proxies from stockholders over the past few weeks, meaning that almost all of the votes that will be counted were already submitted before the meeting. However, if you wish to vote now or to change your prior vote, you may do so through the virtual meeting site. For those that are here in person today, ballots and ballot boxes were available to you at check-in. Tesla's board of directors has appointed Computershare Trust Company to serve as inspector of elections for the meeting. Computershare has taken and signed an oath as inspector of election and has certified that starting on August 13th, 2020, the proxy material or a notice of internet availability of the proxy material were mailed or provided to all Tesla stockholders of record as of July 31, 2020. We have a majority of the outstanding shares represented at the meeting. So I declare that there is now a quorum present and that we may proceed with the meeting. The items on the agenda are as follows. The election of 3 Class 1 directors, Elon Musk, Robin Denholm, and Hiromichi Mizuno, to each serve for a term of 3 years. 2, to approve Tesla's executive compensation on an advisory basis. And 3, to ratify the appointment of PricewaterhouseCoopers, LLP, as Tesla's independent registered public accounting firm for the fiscal year of 2020. Tesla's board has recommended that our stockholders vote for each of the director nominees and for each of those proposals. In addition, we have also received 4 stockholder proposals, as described in the proxy statement. I would like to remind our stockholders that Tesla's board has prepared a statement in opposition to each of these proposals, which appear in the proxy. The first stockholder proposal is an advisory vote regarding paid advertising. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This stockholder proposal comes to us from James Danforth. However, Mr. Danforth has notified us that neither he nor his representative will be presenting the proposal at the meeting.
So what he's talking about right now, just FYI, is if you own any shares of Tesla, you actually get to vote on these things. And the captions are still on, so you can follow along, kind of listen to me at the same time. But you actually get to vote whether you want certain things to happen or not, and you can propose certain things. And he's talking about right now where Tesla's has never actually advertised before, and someone is proposing that Tesla spends a huge chunk of money on advertisements, but there's no reason to do it right now at the specific moment in time because they're selling every single car that they produce. So there's literally no reason for them to do any kind of advertising at all. So that's pretty much what he's talking about, and it looks like he's advising against voting for that. So that's just an FYI.
Academic research finds that reducing such devices is associated with higher returns. The board's opposition statement argues they tried to adopt a majority standard last year, but shareholders rejected it. However, 99.6% of shares voted for the proposal. Only 0.4% voted against it. The problem was that a little more than 35% of shares went unvoted. The vast majority of retail shareholders often don't bother to vote. Since only 65% of shares were voted, we didn't achieve the 66.67% necessary to overturn the current supermajority bylaw. It appears the proposal failed primarily for three reasons. One, the board put forth less than robust arguments in favor. Two, they added confusion with another proposal to reclassify the board not into a single class, that's the norm, but into two classes, elected in alternating years. Third, the board also failed to make a substantial effort to solicit votes in favor. Also, please consider this proposal in context with other poor corporate governance provisions at Tesla. First, shareholders can only remove directors for cause. What that basically means is the director has to be caught in criminal activity for shareholders to remove them. Second, because the board is divided into three classes, shareholders can only hold individual directors accountable every 3 years. And third, shareholders cannot call special meetings nor can act by written consent. I hope you will agree. Corporations should not be democratic free zones. Vote for proposal number 5 so that 33% of shares cannot overrule the wishes of 67%. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McRitchie. We'll now move on to our third stockholder proposal, which is an advisory vote regarding reporting on employee arbitrations. Our board has recommended that our stockholders vote against this stockholder proposal. This proposal comes from NIA Impact Capital, whose representative, Kelly Hall, is on the line to present the proposal today. Ms. Hall, I'd like to invite you to go ahead and present. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Dr. Kristen Hull, and I'm the founder and CEO of NIA Impact Capital. I formally move Proposal 6. This resolution requests that Tesla's Board of Directors oversee the preparation of a report on the impact of the use of mandatory arbitration on Tesla's employees and on its workplace culture. The report will evaluate the association of Tesla's current use of arbitration with the prevalence of both harassment and discrimination in its workplace, and on employees' ability to seek redress should harassment or discrimination occur. This proposal speaks to the widespread experience of discrimination in the workplace by Black, Latinx, and female employees, despite this discrimination being unlawful under the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Tesla has faced a number of serious allegations of racism and sexism at its Buffalo and Fremont plants. Companies that allow bias, discrimination, and harassment in their workplaces are at risk for unnecessary legal, brand, financial, and human capital issues. Support for this resolution is warranted for the following 5 reasons. 1. Research shows that companies benefit from diverse and inclusive workplaces. 2. Corporate policies that allow harassment and discrimination risk investors' capital. 3. The use of arbitration exposes investors to an unknown level of risk. 4. Broad concerns exist with respect to fair treatment in Tesla workplace, and Tesla employees have alleged harassment and discrimination on the basis of both race and gender. Tesla, a company investors love for its innovation, leadership, and wise moat, is increasingly lagging behind its peers in its disclosure related to workplace diversity, equity, and inclusion. Unlike the forward-thinking
Hey, Mike.
innovation in its
I'm going to try to get you the
extraordinary
link
product
to where
Tesla has not
you would
shown
vote.
proactive leadership in building a positive company culture or in addressing concerns about its workplace practices. In these material issues, Tesla lags behind its technology and automotive competitors. The use of arbitration limits employees' remedies for wrongdoing, precludes employees from suing in court, and often keeps underlying facts, misconduct, or case outcomes secret, therefore preventing employees from learning about and acting on shared concerns. Simply stated, arbitration allows bad corporate behavior, like bias, harassment, and discrimination to continue, hidden from employees and investors. To maintain Tesla's wide moat, it is essential that the board seriously assess the implications of the use of arbitration and that Tesla begin to take seriously the need to ensure a fair, equitable, positive, and inclusive workplace.
Unfortunately, it's too late to vote now, but
Thank
typically,
you, Ms. Hall.
if you look at the
Our fourth
shareholders'
and final
meetings,
proposal is an
you could
advisory
actually
vote
vote on that
regarding
page.
reporting on human rights.
And let me see if I
Our
can-
board has recommended that stockholders vote against this proposal. This proposal comes to us from the Sisters of Good Shepherd, New York Province, whose representative, Terrence Collingsworth, is on the line to present today. Mr. Collingsworth, I would like to invite you to speak now. You have 3 minutes for your proposal.
Thank you. I'm Terry Collingsworth, Executive Director of the International Rights Advocates. I'm here representing
you
the Sisters of
go
Good
down that
Shepherd,
page a
New
little
York
bit,
Province to present Item 7 on human rights disclosure, which calls upon
under
Tesla
virtual
to
meeting,
issue a report
it's the
to
first bullet
describe
point.
board
This is if
oversight
you're a
of human
stockholder
rights and
of record.
its human rights due diligence process, including
I hope that answers your question.
systems to provide meaningful remedies when human rights impacts occur. Tesla faces serious human rights issues, and failure to establish a culture of respect for human rights will expose Tesla to new liability issues and significant reputational injury, all of which will have a material impact on the company and its shareholders. The need to set a new course for human rights compliance at Tesla is glaring. Here are 5 examples of human rights violations occurring now in Tesla's operations. Racism, sexual harassment, and disregard for human safety and dignity harm workers at the Gigafactory 2 in Buffalo, New York every single day, and those workers urge you to remember their experiences in your vote. Tesla is experiencing serious labor relations issues at its production facilities and is actively discouraging union organizing. Workers are being exposed to COVID-19 and then are facing retaliation when they ask for greater protections. There are numerous worker health and safety violations as well as wage and hour issues. And finally, there are serious, even deadly human rights violations occurring in Tesla's global supply chains. On this last issue, my organization brought the pending suit against Tesla for using cobalt mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo by young children. I personally met young boys who lost limbs or were paralyzed in cobalt tunnel collapses. Tesla sources cobalt from these very mines, and its claim to have quote, zero tolerance for child labor in its supplier code of conduct is simply not true. Tesla is not only tolerating child labor in its cobalt supply chain, it is tolerating the death and maiming of young child minors. This demonstrates why the company must circle back and begin a process to report on its treatment of human rights issues as requested in this proposal. I think consumers will have zero tolerance for a company that is exposed as being indifferent to killing and maiming child minors. We are hopeful that Tesla's
this is an interesting point that they're bringing up.
Brought to bear on making human rights a priority at the company. For example, if Elon Musk cared about implementing a zero-tolerance child labor policy, instead of having a useless paper policy, Tesla could employ satellites or drones at every mine it sources from.
So this is an interesting point that the guy's making about cobalt. Eventually, I think they're actually really, really small percentages of the batteries are actually cobalt now, and I think eventually they're trying to. I think actually very, very soon there will be no cobalt in it. I didn't know about all this child labor stuff that was going on, but interesting point that he brought up. But Tesla's trying to correct that problem. Unfortunately, I just didn't know that it is what it is right now.
I take great pride in the fact that we haven't had to stoop to the level of what advertising represents to get where we are today. I'd hate to give in to that kind of temptation now when we're so close to becoming a household name that's based solely on our merit alone. But if assets do end up having to be set aside for marketing, I'd like to suggest that rather than shoving ads down the customers' throats, we establish some sort of hardcore nationwide campaign and event with the goal of getting as many people as possible behind the wheel of a Tesla for an introduction drive. It's well known how far just doing that alone goes to converting people into fans. A line I recently ran across says, "You can talk all about the specs as much as you want, but when it comes to buying a car, what ultimately puts butts in seats is the feeling that the vehicle gives you." By demonstrating that Tesla clearly has both the specs and the feeling, what more needs saying? Our second comment comes from the United Steelworkers on behalf of the Clean Air Now Coalition of Western New York by Sabrina Liu. Proposal, and it reads as follows. Proposals 6 and 7, up for vote this year, are the results of widespread concern about mistreatment of Tesla workers at U.S. factories and across the supply chain. It is clear that Tesla is not interested in addressing the harm they have caused to their workers, as their board is advising shareholders to vote against the proposal. We're urging all shareholders to vote in favor of Proposals 6 and 7. And on behalf of our workers at the United Steelworkers here in Western New York, and for Tesla employees across the country and across the global supply chain.
Thanks for that correction, Michael. I think you're right. If you registered before, then you can still vote right now. So thanks for the correction on that.
Harm to children and communities forced into slave labor in the DRC.
And yeah, you're right, Kyle. They are trying to get rid of it for not just efficiency, but they did mention it was for environmental reasons as well. So,
well, now,
but good point. They are trying to get rid of it.
For any of you to submit proxies in order for them to be counted. So I'll pause and wait for a moment.
Hey, Davis.
For you to do that.
Thanks for joining, Davis, Kyle. Oh, Melissa's here too, and Michael. Glad you guys could join. I know, the shareholder stuff is kind of boring, waiting for the battery stuff, right?
So based on the proxies that we have previously received, I'd like to announce on a preliminary basis that our stockholders have approved the recommendations of Tesla's board on all agenda items, other than the stockholder proposal for an advisory vote regarding simple majority voting in our governing documents. After the final tabulation is completed, we'll formally announce the results of the voting by filing a Form 8K
Is my
with the
mic
SEC within
audio
4 business days of
okay,
today.
and is the video audio okay?
This
I
now
just want to make sure that you
concludes
guys can hear
the
both.
official business of Tesla's 2020 annual stockholders meeting, which is now adjourned. Next, we will have a company update and a year in review presented by Elon, and then we will start our Battery Day event. During the course of those following sessions, we may discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. Such statements are predictions based on our current expectations. Actual events or results could materially differ due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those disclosed in our most recent 10-Q filed with the SEC. These
Unfortunately,
forward-looking statements
the
represent
volume
our
is
views
at
as of
max
today.
for the desktop
They shouldn't be
audio.
relied on
I think it's just the
after
video
today,
itself.
and we
Do you want me to
disclaim any
turn down my
obligation to
mic
update
volume
them
a little
after
bit,
today as well.
or is it enough to kind of hear in general?
We will now continue with the company update and year in review. And it's my pleasure to introduce Tesla co-founder and CEO, Mr. Elon Musk.
Awesome. I just wanted to, yeah, it's at like
everyone.
literally 100% volume right now. I could boost up the
I mean, this is
dB
definitely a
if
new
you want me to.
approach with
Let me
the
know. I just
Tesla
don't want it to distort,
drive-in
is all.
movie theater, basically. It's good to see everyone. It's a little hard to read the room with everyone being in cars, but it's it's the only way we could do it. So hopefully it's cool, and hopefully you can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Okay. All right, great. All right, well, thanks for coming. I think it's been an incredible year, and I'd like to thank you for your support. Through tough times, good times, it's been great. Really appreciate everyone who's put their hard-earned money into Tesla, and I think it's worked out pretty well. This has been a good year, and I think there's many good years to come. So I'll go through the sort of the shareholder presentation, I think, fairly quickly, because the sort of real main event here is Battery Day. So,
Yeah, his speaking voice is a little bit awkward.
Of what's happened over the past
He actually stutters
year or
quite a
so.
bit. I actually think he's autistic. I don't know if that's
starting
100% true or
from,
not. I keep hearing that here and
in
there,
terms of our ability
but
to create a
that
factory,
would account for his
just
stuttering.
Huge kudos to the Tesla Shanghai team for being able to go from literally a dirt pile to volume production in 15 months. It's like, damn.
Thanks for joining.
So, and I think something that's really quite noteworthy here is Tesla is the only foreign manufacturer to have a 100% owned factory in China. So this is often not well understood or not appreciated, but to have the only 100% owned foreign factory in China is a really big deal, and it's paying huge dividends here. So we really wouldn't have the results that we have had this year without the great efforts of the Tesla China team. So I'm super appreciative of that. And we'll see the Shanghai factory continue to scale quite a bit from where it is right now. I think we really could expect that to be, over time, a factory that produces over 1 million vehicles a year. Yeah, it's cool. So let's see. So we also reached in the past year volume production of the Model Y, and this was the smoothest launch that we've ever had. So I think we're definitely getting better at new vehicle launches, and
It's actually
building
kind of funny.
factories and
So
scaling
because of the
production.
social distancing, people are sitting in
As
their
you've heard me say
Teslas,
before,
hence the
the
honking.
hardest thing is scaling production, especially of a new technology. It's insanely difficult. Making a prototype is relatively easy, and if I think like what is the real achievement of Tesla in sort of car company terms, it's like it wasn't making sort of exciting prototypes. It was that Tesla was really the first company in about a century in the U.S., the first U.S. company in the U.S. to reach volume production, and be sustainably profitable. Like the crazy thing is this has really not happened in 100 years. That's the actual super hard part. And we now have 4 vehicles in volume production, S3 XY. So also the toughest joke I think maybe ever. It was a very difficult joke to make. So we also introduced the lowest cost solar in the U.S. It's only $1.49 a watt, and we really just simplified the whole value chain. So reduced sales and advertising, got rid of a bunch of unnecessary costs, and really are just relying upon the fact that it's just the lowest cost, most efficient solar in the U.S.
The labor stuff that they're talking about,
retrofit and the solar glass roof.
unfortunately, that's
it's
just
a really great product, a hard product to
the
make
part.
that
I mean,
will be,
cobalt is just one of
amazing
those
product
really
in the future.
nasty materials that does get mined, and unfortunately, there's very
And, we also got
few
4
sources you can
consecutive
get it
quarters
from.
of GAAP profitability, which
Eventually,
was
Tesla
was
will
very
phase it
difficult.
out. They've actually set goals already to phase it out, even
It's certainly
though
a testament to the
it
hard
is,
work of people at Tesla.
I guess, less energy dense, not having cobalt
I
in
mean,
it.
to do this,
Their goal is
in
still
extremely
to
difficult times against
get rid of
wide range
cobalt
adverse
because it
circumstances,
is as
was,
toxic as they say. And
insanely hard. But we got it done.
because
So,
of all the
and
efficiencies
I
that
think
they've got in the motors and all
future's
that stuff,
looking I think very
they've still
promising,
been able to
from
get,
sort of an annual profitability
I guess,
standpoint.
as many miles
So,
as they had previously and some, even
in
with
order
less
to
cobalt in the
achieve-
batteries. So
in
eventually
order
they'll
to-
phase
to-
it
to
out.
sort of
I hope that answers your
do
question,
well financially, you
Orion.
really need economies of scale, and you need ideally the best technology. And I think we had the best technology for a while, but now we are also achieving economies of scale. So, and we're also rapidly improving autonomy, which is a massive value add to each car. So, I think the
Yeah,
value
Kyle,
of
you're
Tesla is
right.
gonna be
I remember him saying that
like
on the Joe Rogan
total-
podcast too.
just on the vehicle side, total vehicles
Yeah,
produced.
he thinks faster than he can
times
speak,
the value of autonomy. That's a way to think about the
so he
future
actually has
value
to
of
slow
Tesla.
himself down, hence the stuttering.
We also have consistent free cash flow generation. This is really important for growth. A key element here is tightening up the time from when a car is ordered to when it is built and delivered. So for a company that is growing rapidly, it's extremely important to tighten the supply chain and to have, from when parts arrive, put it into a car very quickly and deliver the car very quickly to the customer. And if you can do that inside the sort of your kind of payables timeline, then the faster you grow, the more cash you have. Or conversely, if you're unable to do it within your payables timeline, the faster you grow, the less money you will have, which is obviously bad. It's for a capital-intensive situation. So just tightening up and having the parts move very quickly to the factory, put it in a car, get it to a customer, makes a massive difference to cash flow generation. And I mean, that's why it's extremely important to have a factory in each continent. Because if you don't at least have a factory in the continent, it is impossible to achieve this. So having a factory in China that's able to serve China, and then soon many other countries in the region, will be key to us tightening that total sort of chain of cash flow and
Nice
getting
one. Nice joke.
essentially, the faster we grow, the more cash. This is really important. That's also why it's important to have Giga Berlin complete, because then we'll have a factory in China, factory in the U.S., and soon a second factory in the U.S. in Austin, and a factory in Europe.
So what he's talking about actually is not just speed, being able to pump out cars and not having to import or export any cars. It's kind of nice to have it obviously
it's roughly 2/3
local
the way
to
across the US.
the country,
So,
but
in
it
terms
also
of
cuts
delivering cars
down
to the
costs
central
because
US
of
and to the
the
East
import
Coast.
and export
It's
taxes,
just faster,
and
costs less,
it's also cheaper to have
fundamentally
all
improves
the
our
materials
economics.
and everything
So I think this is also maybe
there
something that's
as
not
well,
fully
rather than
appreciated
having
of
to,
just how important it is to have
like for
a
us, for
factory
example,
at
to
least
buy
on the continent
import
or
things from
reasonably
China,
close
like
to where the end customer is,
materials
so you
and
can
such.
tighten that whole chain.
So having the factory in China was a huge
Industry
deal
performance,
that was very
while
underrated.
The industry has gone down, Tesla has gone up. I think this speaks to thanks. And so I'd like to thank all the customers for taking a chance on Tesla and buying our product, and really hope you're enjoying it. This is really, our sales, as Al was saying, really grow by word of mouth. So this is really, I think, a very pure, it's very pure in the sense that it's like, it's growing on the basis of existing owners recommending it to new customers. This is really, I think, a good way to grow. And then in 2019 we had 50% growth, and I think we'll do really pretty well in 2020. Probably somewhere between 30 to 40% growth, despite a lot of very difficult circumstances. I mean, there's so many, pandemic, wildfires. It's like.
By the way, 50% growth is
production issues.
Insane. Like that's a huge multiple.
Thanks to the hard work of the Tesla team and a lot of innovative approaches to overcoming issues, we're able to still see significant growth in one of the most difficult. In fact, I say probably the most difficult year of Tesla's existence.
Like
So,
most huge, like significant growth for, let's say, another auto company,
Tesla,
like let's say Ford, for
tried
example.
very hard to do the right thing. If the right
They
thing does not
grow
happen, it's
at
just because
most that I
maybe made
can
a mistake or
recall
we weren't
is
aware
like
of it,
12%.
but we
So
always try to do the right thing
the
as to
50%
the best
growth
of our
that Tesla
ability.
had is
And
like
then we
nuts.
published the extended impact report to show,
And
you know,
they're
just
on
a sort of a
track to
self-examination
do
of,
between
okay, what are we doing right,
if
what are we
what
doing
he
wrong,
says is
what
accurate,
can we do
which
better
it
in the future.
looks like it can be,
You know,
with
we're
all the
definitely trying
factors
to
they're
accomplish the most
building,
good, and
it's going to
so,
be between
you know, if we occasionally make a
30 to
mistake, we work
50%
quickly
growth
to
per
fix it
year.
and do the right
So
thing.
year over year growth of between 30 to
So,
50%,
you know,
which
it's
is
worth looking at like the average
bananas.
life cycle emissions in the U.S. And just how much better a Tesla is than, or an electric car, than any other
Yeah, don't be Boeing.
car. And what we'll talk about in the battery day is also just how much the grids around the world and
I actually feel bad for
especially in
Boeing.
the
They used to
US
make
are greening.
extremely good quality stuff until
It's
management
actually much
changed,
faster than I think people
and that's when I
realize.
was like,
The
dude,
US
do
is
not
moving
invest
towards
in
sustainable
Boeing
energy.
anymore.
And so as we move
Their
more and more to
upper
sustainable
management is
energy,
just
then
garbage.
effectively you end up building the
Once
solar
that
factories
CEO
and
left, oof, that's
the car factories themselves with solar. Over time you do, or with sustainable energy. Over time you'll even mine with sustainable energy, and eventually it will get to an effective emissions of 0. So that's where things will end up. Yeah. So we also have safety at the core of our design. The Tesla cars are the safest cars ever designed. We have the lowest probability of injury of any cars ever tested by the U.S. government, and that's just passive safety. When you add active safety into that, it's even better. So you know, it's really, if safety is important to you, which obviously it is, the safest car you could drive is a Tesla.
That's
So,
one of actually the reasons why we bought
I
our
think people
Model
sometimes
3 was
some
because
people aren't aware
it
of
was
this, but it's
literally
really,
the safest
safety is
car
paramount.
that you could
It is
possibly
actually the
buy.
number one design objective
I've seen
when
some
we
gnarly
Tesla
crashes
safety.
where the car is just straight up mangled
Our factories
and
are also becoming safer,
person
and if you look at the sort of
was barely
accidents
hurt.
per total vehicle made, it's dramatically better than in the past, and it's already better than industry average, and we're confident we can get it to the best in the auto industry. Autopilot functionality continues to improve, and you can see it in the safety report that we publish every quarter. It's just getting better and better. The U.S. average for collisions is at roughly 2.1 per million miles, and with autopilot engaged, it's 0.3. I mean, this is a profound difference. It really
That's pretty crazy.
Massive, and this will get even better.
0.3%.
So, we're confident that
For every
over
2
time
million
we can get
miles,
the
that's pretty
probability
crazy.
of an accident, especially the
I
probability
literally
of
use
injury, to
autopilot the moment I
10
enter the
times
freeway,
better
so
than
it's
the industry average, like an order of magnitude better. So that's just a lot of lives saved and a lot of injuries avoided. So that's a huge priority for us. On the autopilot front,
I freaking love
I think
autopilot
it's kind of
though.
hard for people
It's
to judge the
super
progress
underrated.
of autopilot. Like I'm driving. I as a matter of course I've always done this. I drive the bleeding edge alpha build of
Yeah, that was a good
autopilot.
point, Kyle. That's
And so
That's a pretty gnarly picture.
What is going on? You know, previously, about a couple of years ago, we were kind of stuck in a local maximum.
I agree with you
so
too, man.
We were improving, but like the improvements kind of started tailing off and just not getting where they needed to be. We were quite close to still getting trapped in a local maximum. And so we had to do a fundamental rewrite of the entire autopilot software.
Sorry, I'm
stack.
actually responding to your guys'
and all of the
messages in the
labeling,
chat via voice
software as
because
well.
it's
So
actually really laggy with.
We're now
I have like
labeling
3 monitors
in
displayed,
3D,
and it's
video.
so like throttling to like 90% CPU usage. So I'm gonna try to answer you via my mic the best that I can with your guys' questions and stuff.
From the 8 cameras, and they would be labeled at different times by different people, and some of the labels you literally can't tell what it is you're labeling. So it basically made it sort of in some cases impossible to label, and the labels had a lot of errors. Now with our new labeling tools,
that's true.
We label
They pay for everyone's
video.
education
So
at Boeing, and then
video segments.
they either bail out,
and the system,
which is why they're
so
trash,
you get basically a surround video thing
or they
to
get an
label,
MBA in
and,
something stupid.
with the surround video and with time. So it's now taking all cameras simultaneously, and looking at how the images change over time and labeling that, and then the sophistication of the neural nets in the car and the overall logic in the car has improved dramatically. I think we'll hopefully release a private beta of Autopilot, or the full self-driving version of Autopilot, in I think a month or so, and then we'll
so
really,
stoked for this.
Understand just the magnitude of the change. It's profound.
If it is as crazy as he says that it is,
yeah.
this first version of
Anyway, so
fully
it's
self-driving
like
is,
a hell of a
I
step
have to
change.
admit, is pretty
But because we
garbage.
had to
It's
rewrite everything,
not exactly
software,
what they
the
advertised
entire
it to
code
be,
base,
but based off
it
what
took
he's
us
saying that
quite
it
a
can
while,
be,
and the sort of new sort of
it could be the difference
4D in the
between
sense that it's 3 dimensions plus time.
a $7,000
it just
stock
takes us a while
price
to
in 10
rewrite
years to a
everything.
$15,000
And so,
stock price
you'll see what
difference
it's like. It's gonna be-
pre-split.
It's amazing.
That's how bananas
Yeah. It's
this
just, it's
fully
really
self-driving,
gonna work.
if it is legit and works as intended,
Tesla core
as
competencies
level 5
were
autonomy,
engineering,
which means
obviously,
you don't touch the steering wheel at all.
but also manufacturing. I think manufacturing is
Basically, if you got Tesla
underappreciated in general.
stocks, a decent
And,
amount of shares, you could be
and
rich if it
the-
works. But
the difficulty
I don't actually
of
account
designing
for
a machine
fully
that makes the
self-driving
machine
because
is
I
vastly harder than the machine itself.
you just can't really
So,
account for it. But
Yeah, designing, like making a Model
if fully
3 or
self-driving does
Model Y or
does
Cybertruck
work, it's gonna
prototype
be interesting.
is really quite trivial compared to designing the factory that makes it. Especially if it's new technology and you want to use new manufacturing methods, it's just at least 10 to 100 times harder to do the factory than the prototype. And that's why you see a lot of companies out there or startups, they'll bring out a prototype, but they just can't get it over the hump for manufacturing, because manufacturing of new technology especially is the hardest thing by far.
That's why they have all those
like basically the
Tesla
prototype
killer
is
companies or like models that
at
they
best
say
10% of the
is gonna
difficulty and probably closer to 1%.
kill Tesla.
and
They
then software.
the production car looks
Tesla is both a
cool, but
hardware and a
they can
software
never
company.
mass produce them,
So
which is what the point he was
a
making.
huge percentage of our engineers are actually software engineers, and you can think of our car as kind of like a laptop on wheels, and so software is incredibly important, and so not just in the car, but also in the factory. So the factory software is extremely important. Just software in general. These are fundamental. These are the 3 critical areas that are needed to make for an awesome company. So. Yeah. So we have now we'll soon have 3 new factories, incremental, on, well, we have one already, on 3 different continents. Shanghai, we're expanding to Shanghai with the second phase. Berlin is making rapid progress, and Texas is making even faster progress. So yeah.
So what's kind of interesting is a lot of
with the
analysts
factory,
say
we're trying
that
to do
Tesla's
is
not
also
very
improve
profitable,
manufacturing
and
technology. So it's,
if you actually look at it, it's
in some cases,
because
like the Model Y
look at
might
how many
look the same, but it
extra
actually
factories
is
they
made
built.
in a much more
Like
efficient way.
that's straight
And
up three factories right there that
yeah,
they had to
we'll
drop
talk about that
billions
later
on.
in the
So
battery
that kind of makes it
presentation.
appear as if they're not
Yeah,
as profitable because they're actually
it's
reinvesting
3
that money
megawatt hours, all-in-one
into
energy storage
expanding.
solution.
So kind of think
So
of Amazon,
it's been great
where
overall.
they expanded for like 6 years before they
Yeah.
took any profits.
All right.
But when they took
And
profits,
I think that's
it blew up,
basically
and
it.
it's the same concept. Is
All right,
Tesla's
thank you.
at that pre-Amazon stage where they're building out infrastructure
All right.
and everything,
Well,
and once
thanks
everything
everyone,
is fully
for
built out,
coming, and we'll be back in a little bit to
profits are going to
go
be
through the battery
just
stuff. And there's a
pouring
little bit
in.
more
So that's
in addition
why
to the battery stuff, we got a little few
what the
extras,
analysts say
as well.
about Tesla is
So I think you'll really like what we have to say on batteries.
kind of wrong. I mean, it doesn't look like they're
The battery
profitable,
stuff we're going
but
to talk about is truly revolutionary and essential
that's
to
why Tesla's
to
long-term
Tesla's goal. The fundamental
stock
good
to hold,
of
not
Tesla,
a short term.
it's like if you look back in history and say what good did Tesla do? The good will be to what, by how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy? That's like the true metric of success. It matters if sustainable energy happens faster or slower, and so that's really like how I think about Tesla and how we should sort of assess our progress. By how many years did we accelerate sustainable energy, and what we're going to talk about with batteries and a few other things will really explain how we're going to make a step change improvement in the acceleration of sustainable energy. Thank you.
Hell yeah, this is what it's about.
Hi, folks. That was great. We're going to take a short break before we begin the Battery Day event. So stay tuned. If you're local and here in the audience today, you can feel free to get out of the cars and stretch your legs, but try to stay near the cars because we're going to begin promptly in a little bit. See you soon.
This is kind of funny. It's like general audience, but you have to pull up your Teslas. It's like a concert, except you can't admit unless you are in your Tesla. Interesting COVID. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking too. A drive-in movie. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions or anything in the meantime while they're on a break? Let me see. It doesn't look like I have any drop frame rates or anything. I have about 13% frame rate drop. Uh, it looks okay. Here, I'm gonna take a break too. Uh,
Hello, everyone. Sure. Thanks, Elon. Oh, hi. I'm Drew Baglino, SVP of Powertrain and Energy Engineering at Tesla, and I'm incredibly excited to talk about what we've been doing at batteries here at Tesla.
Great. So let's see, you got the clicker?
Yeah, I've got the clicker, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Thanks.
I'll take it at first, perhaps.
Yeah.
Sure. So
He gets away with too
obviously
much.
the issues we're facing are very serious.
We actually bought him
with,
one Tesla share
climate
when it
change
was
and,
$400
we're
pre-split.
experiencing
So
these issues on a day-to-day basis.
he has more.
It's incredibly important.
I
We
think his
accelerate the advent of
share is
sustainable
worth
energy.
more than the
Time really matters.
than
This
2 years worth of us
presentation
putting
is about
in
accelerating
$100 a
the
month.
time to
If
sustainable
that's
energy.
crazy or not.
So the past 5 years were the hottest on record. We have what looks like a wall for CO2 ppm. It's obviously, this time is not like the past. It's really important that we take action. Running this climate experiment is insane. So,
Especially when it's just a transitory one anyway.
yes.
We're going to run out of these fossil fuels. Let's just move to the future and not run this experiment any longer.
Yeah. Maybe talk a bit louder.
You got it.
Okay. So anyway, there is a lot of good news though. A lot of people may not be aware that wind and solar comprise 75% of new electricity capacity in the U.S. this year. So this is a really major. So the grid is going sustainable very, very quickly. Now it's also worth noting that the length of time that power plants last is on the order of 25 years. So even if 100% of energy generation was sustainable, it would still take 25 years to convert the grid. And it's also worth noting that in the past 10 years, power production from coal has dropped in half. So
I don't know enough about
of electricity
Peloton.
in 2010 to 23% in 2020. So
To be honest, it can do pretty well.
improvement.
It's
So
just
good things are
their
happening
last
in a lot of
commercial
levels.
got them really bad
Just need to go
flack.
faster.
But I mean, they
So
could
in
be.
Tesla's contribution, we've delivered over 1
They
million.
might be the
electric
Apple
vehicles,
of workout
26
equipment.
million,
To be honest,
electric miles driven.
no one really does it like them, so they're kind of
and,
unique. But
many gigawatt hours of
I
stationary
think what's his name?
batteries,
You should
17
watch
terawatt hours of solar
Dave Lee.
generated. So,
Dave Lee has
I
a
think
pretty
solar
good
is sometimes
video about Peloton.
underweighted at Tesla, but it is a massive part of our future. The three parts of a sustainable energy future are sustainable energy generation, storage, and electric vehicles. So we intend to play a significant role in all three. So to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, we must produce more EVs that need to be affordable and a lot more energy storage while building factories faster and with far less investment. So goal number one is a terawatt-hour scale battery production. So tera is the new giga, and a terawatt is 1,000 times more than a gigawatt. So we used to talk in terms of gigawatts.
It's pretty crazy
in the
because
future
I
we'll
think
be
right
talking
now they're
in
only
terms
at
of, terawatt
23 or
hours.
32
So this is
gigawatts
what's needed in order to transition the world
with
to
all the
sustainability.
gigafactories that are currently up.
Yeah, and you
So
can see it's
a
we're
terawatt
talking about
is
100x growth
insane.
in
Yeah, 100 times.
batteries for electric vehicles to
100
achieve
times
this
growth.
mission. And we are going to get there. It's just a matter of how fast, and our intention is to accelerate it.
Yeah, you basically need on the order of roughly 10 terawatt hours a year of battery production to transition the global fleet of vehicles to electric.
And the average vehicle lasts 15 years, so we're talking about 150 terawatt hours, give or take, to transition the whole all vehicles of all types to electric.
Yeah, so it's a lot of batteries, basically. Yeah, so.
And then on the grid side, we have a similar mountain to climb, 1,600 times growth from today's grid batteries to go 100% renewable on the grid and to take all of the existing heating fossil fuel uses in homes and businesses 100% electric.
Yeah, and this number I think might grow even more. As the world economy matures and as countries with high populations industrialize, we could see this number be even more. But let's say it's like roughly 20 to 25 terawatt hours per year.
I'm actually
sustained,
muting it so you don't
for
hear like me clearing
15
my
to
throat and
25
stuff.
years
So
to
I'm
transition
actually
the world
muting it.
to,
I'm just
renewable.
making facial expressions
This is a lot.
because I'm
Yeah.
kind of blown
So
away.
today's batteries cannot scale fast enough. They're just too small. For Giga Nevada, 150 gigawatt hours per year is like what we probably expect to make out of there. But this is really pretty small in the grand scheme of things. That's only 0.15 terawatt hours. And they cost too much. So
We would need 135 fully built out Nevada gigafactories.
So
to
that's the
achieve 20
perspective that they're-
terawatt hours a year.
that
It's
you need
not
to look at.
scalable enough of a solution. We need a dramatic rethink of the cell manufacturing system to scale as fast as we can and should.
yeah, and I think we should view this as more than just a question of money. Money is sort of like an ethereal thing, but it's really the amount of effort. You have a certain amount of effort, in terms of people and machines, and depending on how efficient that effort is, for a given amount of effort, you want the most amount of batteries. So
Sorry, my
it's
dog.
not just a question of like,
wants to
well,
sit-
if we had $2
sit and
trillion
watch.
tomorrow, you could make this. It's not that easy. You actually need to organize a massive number of people, build a lot of machines, build the machines that make the machines, and so it's incredibly important to have that effort yield the most number of batteries. So and then goal two, obviously, we need to make more affordable cars. I think one of the things that troubles me the most is that we don't yet have a truly affordable car, and that is something that we will make in the future. But in order to do that, we've got to get the cost of batteries down. We've got to make and we've got to be better at manufacturing, and we need to do something about this curve. The curve of the cost per kilowatt hour of batteries is not improving fast enough. So we've given this a lot of thought over many years to say, okay, how can we radically improve the cost per kilowatt hour curve? It's been somewhat flattening out actually in recent years. So
I mean, early growth was promising, but you can see we're kind of plateauing. So that's what's motivating us to rethink how cells are produced and designed.
Yeah, exactly. And EV market share is growing, but EVs, aren't still accessible to all. And you can see, as Drew was saying, it's like starting to flatten out a little bit because the rate of improvement of the affordability of cars is just not fast enough. So that's why we got Battery Day.
Yeah. To make the best cars in the world, we design vehicles and factories from the ground up. Next.
Yeah.
And now we do this for batteries as well.
Yeah.
Oh snap! This was the one thing that they had to
weird, the
kind of
slides don't show up
source
properly.
out. Actually, this and I believe the screens. But yeah, they have to buy batteries from like Panasonic or something like that,
Supposed to be current.
or
So let's get started.
CATL. stuff like-
We have a plan to halve the cost per kilowatt hour.
Yeah.
And it's not a plan that rests on a single innovation, some research project that'll never see the light of day. It's a plan that has taken creative engineering and industrialization across every facet of what makes a cell into a battery pack, from raw material to the finished thing. And we're going to go through that plan with you today, step by step, and build up how we get to these goals and how we accelerate this transition and make our vehicles and our grid batteries more affordable.
Yeah. I mean, we basically thought through every element of the battery, well, almost every element. There are a few more elements that we won't get to today, but we will get to in the future.
Yes. So first, before we get too far into it, let's talk about what is in a battery cell. We've got the cap and the can, negative and positive.
Can you hear me now,
terminals of the
Melissa?
cell.
Just making sure.
When you open that cell, you've got a tab connected to those terminals, what we call the jelly roll, which is the wound electrodes on the inside. You can actually see what this looks like as you unwind it. This is over 1 meter long in a typical 2170 cell. So it's quite a long winding process. And you can see the tab still there. And then To explain what's actually going on here, we've identified we've got anode, cathode, separator, positive and negative terminal. Watch what happens as we, there we go, discharge the cell. Got lithium moving from anode to cathode, and then the reverse. When we charge the cell, anode moving from lithium moving from cathode to anode across the separator. This is the basic of what makes all lithium-ion batteries, whether they're no matter what the form factor is. And when we look at what's happened to date, at least in our products, we've moved from the 18650 form factor to the 2170 form factor through great collaboration with our partners, Panasonic, new partners like LG and CATL, and probably others in the future.
Yeah. Actually, so a slight note on why is the one called the 18650, although not on the slide, versus the 2170, is that the first two digits refer to the diameter, and the second two digits refer to the length. So that helps explain why are these weird. What's up with these weird numbers? But like nobody could explain to me why there was an extra zero. So I said like, okay, well we're deleting the zero that nobody can explain in future form factors. So that's why it's technically it's like the 18650 bizarrely, but going forward it's the 2170 because we just got rid of the extra zero because it's pointless.
And this was a evolutionary step, going from 1865 to 2170, bringing 50% more energy into the cell.
If you actually look at it though, like in perspective, an 1865 to a 2170, that's not that much bigger in terms of physical size, but they got 50% more energy into that battery, which is that's actually pretty mind-blowing though, if you really think of that in perspective.
As we change the outer diameter of the cell, we found a sweet spot somewhere around 46 millimeters. But it's not just about a bigger form factor. Like anybody could make a bigger form factor.
Any fool could make a bigger form factor. We not any fool.
Yeah, exactly. There are problems as you make cells larger. In fact, supercharging and thermals in general become really challenging as you make bigger cells. And this was the challenge that our team set our sights on to overcome. And we did. We came up with this tabless architecture that maybe you've heard about. That
got leaked.
Basically removes the thermal problem from the equation and allows us to go to the absolute lowest cost form factor and the simplest manufacturing process. And this is what we mean when we talk about tabless. It's kind of a beautiful thing.
That's what these T-shirts mean, but it's very esoteric. It's like nobody could figure it out. But
yeah, we basically took the existing foils, laser patterned them, and enabled dozens of connections into the active material through this shingled spiral you can see, with simpler manufacturing, fewer parts, 50 millimeter versus 250 millimeter electrical path length, which is how we get all the thermal benefits.
Yeah, this is important to appreciate. Like basically the distance that electron has to travel, is just much less. So you actually have a shorter path length in a large tabless cell than you have in the smaller cell with tabs. This is a big deal. So even though the cell is bigger, it actually has
that's crazy.
More power. The power to weight ratio is actually better than the smaller cell with tabs. This is, again, like this is quite hard to do. So it's nobody.
This is mind blowing right now.
So, and it really took a tremendous amount of effort within Tesla engineering to figure out how do we make a freaking tabless cell and have it actually work and then connect that to
this is
the
genius.
top cap. And it's there's a whole bunch of things that we're keeping a little secret sauce here that we're not telling everything. But
sometimes what's elegant and simple is still hard, and it took us a lot of trials, but we're happy where we ended up.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean everything's simple in recollection. After you simple, everything it's hard until it's discovered, and then it's simple. So anyway, but there's a lot of really cool things going on.
So
that enable
the power to density
tablets,
ratio
and,
is
it's really
significantly.
Due to a really great engineering team, Drew and the rest of the
Wow.
team have done amazing work in achieving this tabless construction. And it sounds, I think it may sort of sound a bit silly to some people, but this is like, for people that really know cells, this is a massive breakthrough.
For cylindricals to be able to get rid of the tabs, dramatically.
Thanks for joining,
simplifies
Derek.
winding
Welcome
and
to the
coding,
club.
Yeah.
And has an awesome thermal and performance benefit.
Yeah, that's just to elaborate on that a bit. It's like when the cell is going through the system, it has to keep stopping where all the tabs are.
Yes.
So you can't do continuous motion production if you have tabs. You have to keep stopping, and then there's a rate at which you can start and stop and accelerate again, and it really slows down the rate of production. And then sometimes you get the tabs wrong, and you also lose a little bit of active area. It's really a huge pain in the ass to have tabs from a production standpoint.
Yes.
Okay, those numbers are
and so
nuts.
when we put it
5
all
times the
together
energy,
and go to our new 80
plus
millimeter
16%
length,
range, 6 times more
4680 we
power.
call this new cell design. We get 5 times the energy with 6 times the power, and enable 16% range increase just form factor alone.
Yeah, so
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
This is mind blowing.
And just to clarify, when we see these plus 16% or whatever the percentage range increases, these are the amounts due just to that particular innovation.
Yes.
So we'll list a whole bunch of innovations, and then when you add them up, you get a total improvement in energy density and cost. But these numbers are what refer to just this thing.
Yeah, and I want to stress, this is not just a concept or a rendering. We are starting to ramp up manufacturing of these cells
it's
at our pilot 10 gigawatt hour.
You actually had to get
around the corner.
Yeah.
You actually had to get picked in order to go to this battery investment day, and so you kind of got, like, I guess, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory style golden ticket. So you got picked, and you have to drive up in your Tesla because of COVID rules. But welcome to the party, though, Derek.
To be clear, it will take about a year to reach the 10 gigawatt hour capacity. So this is important to appreciate. Like, when you build a factory, there's a certain capacity that you design to, and then it takes some period of time to actually achieve that capacity.
Oh, welcome to the party,
so
Derek.
I would
Both
say it's
Dereks.
probably about a year before we get to the 10 gigawatt hour annualized rate with the pilot plant. And this is just a pilot plant. The actual production plants will be more on the order of maybe 200 gigawatt hours, maybe more over time.
And
this is awesome.
Thank you.
I'm glad that there's a bunch of you guys here.
But
this is
let's
fun.
stack up everything we just saw at the cell level. So just the cell form factor change enables a 14% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction, just that cell form factor change. And now that you've been teased on this factory, we're going to go on and walk step by step through that factory and discuss a series of innovations there.
Okay, this is dope.
When thinking about the ideal cell factory, we have inspirations behind us in the paper and bottling industry, where from humble beginnings, over a century of innovation has enabled mass scale, continuous motion, unbelievably low manufacturing cost. And when we think about the lithium-ion industry,
there's a little bit of a delay. That's why I think it's like a 20-second delay
so far to go
between the live stream and
similar scale and simplicity. And that was the inspiration that we set out to the team as we thought about how to marry cell to foils. Then those
there we go.
foils are wound
better?
in the winding process we just talked about, where if you do have tabs,
You're right,
you can start
Melissa.
and stop a lot.
I guess there's a little bit of lag
Then
that causes it
the
to
jelly roll is
drop from
assembled
the live.
into the can, sealed, filled with electrolyte, and then sent to formation, where the cell is charged for the first time.
Thanks for letting me know.
Where the sort of the electrochemistry is set and the quality of the cell is verified. And we set out at every step of this process to try to take that inspiration we just showed and think about how we make those processes fundamentally better and more scalable. And one of the most important processes is where it all begins, the wet process of the electrode coating. And just to give you all a sense of scale, I'm going to walk through what's in that wet process. You've got mixing, where the powders are mixed with either a water or a solvents for the cathode. That mix then goes into a large coat and dry oven, where the slurry is coated onto the foil.
All right.
Huge ovens.
I hope they're talking about
long,
Maxwell
dried,
battery technology stuff
and
right
that
now.
Solvent then has to be recovered. You can see the solvent recovery system. And then finally, the coated foil is compressed to the final density. And when you're looking at this, you're like, wow, That's a lot of equipment for one step, especially when you consider that little speck next to the coating oven is a person. This is serious iron involved in making batteries. Wouldn't it be great if we could skip that solvent step, which is one of those dig a ditch and then fill it kind of things where you put the solvent in and then take it out and recycle it, and just go straight to dry mix to coat?
Oh,
And that's what the dry
snap.
process really is about. And in the most basic form, you can see it here on a bench top. Literally, powder.
No
into
way.
film. As simple as that.
No
I mean,
way.
it's
That's
hard,
crazy.
actually, just to be clear. If this was easy, everyone would do it. So it's not like dry coating electrode is actually.
So you guys remember
easy.
when I said last May you guys should
it's actually
invest
very
in
hard to
Tesla
do
because
with
of
simple
Maxwell
things.
Technologies? This is what they're
and
doing.
It's worth noting, we did acquire Maxwell.
They
Like a little over a year
basically
ago,
cut
I
out
guess.
the acid
And,
processing
it's
part of
certainly
it.
a good company and everything, but the dry coating they had was it's like sort of I would call proof of concept. Since the acquisition, we've actually revved the machine that does the dry coating 4 times. So we're in revision 4 post acquisition of the machine, and there's still a lot of work to do. So I would not say this is like completely in the bag. It's still a lot of work to do, and as you go from like benchtop to lab to pilot to volume production, there are actually major issues that you encounter at every level. It's not like you make something work on your bench and bingo, now you can make a bazillion of it.
Absolutely.
It's insanely difficult to scale up.
Yeah,
yeah,
but if you do scale it up,
yeah,
what you saw before becomes this.
yeah.
You can see the motivation. A 10
Uh,
times reduction in footprint, a 10 times reduction in energy, and a massive reduction in investment.
Holy
But
crap.
as Elon was saying, simple is hard.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
what I
to be
told
fair,
everyone to
I would
invest
say
in
that
was
right now
because
it's
of
just
this.
Totally working. It's close to working, but it's not even now. At the pilot plant level, it is close to working. Well, it's fair to say it does work, but with not a high yield.
Yeah.
So
we're still ironing out the kinks, but we've made tens of thousands
Yeah.
of cells, thousands of kilometers of
Sure.
electrode. I mean, we are on the 4th generation of the equipment, so we've learned a lot along the way.
Wow,
Yeah.
I mean, it
4th
is super
gen.
demanding
Nice.
Because every atom has its place if you want to deliver the energy density and the cycle life and the supercharging.
yeah.
But
Wow.
we're
So
confident
that means
we
they've
will get
been
there, but it
Yeah.
will
ever
take
since
a
they
lot of work
acquired
along the way.
There's
Maxwell,
a clear
they've
path to
been
success, but a ton of work between here and there.
doing this
Yep.
since
So
and
but
trying
this
to
is a
scale it up.
really
This
profound
is
improvement
extremely
for
impressive.
People that know battery manufacturing, this
Extremely
is
impressive.
gigantic. We'll probably be on machine revision 6 or 7 by the time we do large-scale production. The rate at which the machines are being improved is extremely rapid. Like literally every 3 or 4 months is a new rev.
Yeah, guy,
and
this is
beyond the
literally
electrode,
why
we
I said to
continue
invest in
innovate
Tesla
on
last
every other
year.
process step. So let's talk a little bit about
They
assembly.
basically they have 10 times less space needed because the whole aciding
key
process is
to
gone.
A high-performing assembly line is accomplishing processes while in motion, continuous motion, and thinking of the line as a highway, max velocity down the highway, no start
Yeah.
and stop, no city driving.
Exactly. No stoplights and traffic lights or anything. You want the highway.
I want the highway.
Yeah.
And together with our internal design team,
God,
that makes
I'm
this
so
equipment
excited
and
about this right
designs
now. I have to
equipment,
pee
we
really
couple
bad, but I don't even want to
thinking
get
about
up.
how to make the best cell with thinking about how to make the best equipment so that we could accomplish the fastest parts per minute rates on all of these tools. And through all of that development, we were able to get to the point where we can implement assembly lines, one line, 20 gigawatt hours.
Holy
7 times
crap.
increase in output per line. And when you're thinking about
What?
scalability and pure effort, having
Holy
one
crap.
line be 7x the capability is just effort multiplying.
Holy
Yeah.
crap. So
So
right now they are producing with
If
all
you
the
think
current
about, like,
factories
the
at
sort of
only
fundamental
23
physics
to
of
I can't
the
remember
or
if
something,
the numbers are flipped
I
which
think
way,
it's
but
actually quite
23
like equation,
gigawatts total.
where,
One
you've got
assembly
basically
line
your equation, you've got your exhaust
can get
velocity
that
and
much.
The log of the start to end mass.
One
So
freaking
it's
line can
basically
get
saying, how
a
fast the thing's
gigawatt.
going and what percentage of the factory volume is doing
That's
useful work. And conveyance does
insane.
not count as useful work. So
Only the value-added steps.
Yeah, if you break the factory down into cubic meter sections.
You're welcome, Derek.
And
I mean,
say,
I'm glad that you guys
or
jumped
so
on
it'd be like
board
one-
because this
you know,
is a
one
fun
meter
ride.
sections, and say, is a majority of this volume doing useful work? You would be astounded at how bad most factories are. They're like maybe 2 or 3%, including our factory in Fremont. So I think it's possible to get to at least 10 times that volumetric efficiency. So more like 30% ish, maybe more, and be 10x better, which means the factory can be 10 times smaller. And then the other thing is how fast are things going through the factory? It's like speed and density. The faster you go, like if a factory that's moving at say twice the speed of another factory is equivalent to two factories basically, and the company that will be successful is the company that with one factory can accomplish what other companies take 2 or 3 or 4 factories to do. So this is what we're trying to do here is say, okay, how do we with one factory achieve what maybe 5 or even 10 factories would normally be required to achieve?
And the vertical
That's
integration
insane
with the
production.
machine design
Insane
teams
production.
At, Groman and
So-
and others.
So
allows us
if you
to
really think about this, batteries
really
cost too much right now
accomplish that,
for
'cause we don't have all these
other
edge conditions
manufacturers,
between
like
one
let's
piece of
say
equipment and another. We can
Chevy
design the entire
with their
machine to
Chevy
be one
Bolt
machine
to buy batteries
and remove all
from
these unnecessary
Panasonic.
steps.
So that's why you don't
Yeah.
really
I
see
mean, basically Tesla,
those cars being
is
produced
aiming
as
to be
much
the
as Tesla.
best at manufacturing of any company on earth. This
If
is the
they're
thing that's
cutting down
actually most
costs like
important
this,
in the long run. I think
they're going to be able to license
just from a
batteries
company
out to other
standpoint and
companies
from
once.
basically achieving sustainability as fast as possible.
I actually don't think they're going to license out batteries though. I don't think they're going to have enough batteries for themselves.
Every car company will have long-range electric cars. Eventually every company will have autonomy. I think, but not every company will be great at manufacturing. Tesla will be absolutely head and shoulders above anyone else in manufacturing. That is our goal.
Absolutely, this is crazy.
Manufacturing is hard, and hard problems are fun to
Yeah.
solve. Okay, now let's talk about formation. In a typical cell factory, formation represents 25% of the investment. And what is formation? It's charging and discharging cells and verifying the quality of the cell. Turns out we've charged and discharged billions and billions of cells in our vehicles, so we know a thing or two about that. The typical formation setup is you charge and discharge each cell individually. In our car, we charge thousands of cells at once. And we took our principle and our power electronics, leveraging Powerwall, vehicle battery management systems, and others, to dramatically improve the formation equipment cost effectiveness and density.
1 million miles?
86% reduction in formation investment, 75% reduction in footprint.
So.
There's not very many claps because they don't understand.
You want to take this one?
Sure. So
that was kind of funny.
What this translates to, based on what we know today, is about a 75% reduction.
That's actually a
in
really big deal
investment
because
per
now they have
kilowatt
more space
hour,
in the
or kilowatt hour.
factory.
It's just basically 4 times better than the current state of the art, to the best of our knowledge, and I think there's probably room to improve even beyond that.
Definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
They're thinking
we're
it's going to
able
be higher than
from
1
a volume
terawatt
standpoint,
per
actually get
factory.
what in a smaller form factor than Giga Nevada, we were able to get many times the cell output. So you can see, like, basically we can get a terawatt hour in less space than it took to make a gigawatt hour. 150 gigawatt hours. So this is
What?
pretty profound. It's like I would actually
That's
not have thought this
insane.
was possible several years ago. That we could actually get to terawatt hour scale in less space than what we currently envision for doing 150 gigawatt hours.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's
terawatt-hour scale,
insane.
and that's what we need to do to accelerate
So
our mission.
the one thing that you
And,
always want to,
as
so when you're
Elon said, we're
investing,
gonna try to even
you
improve
typically
on
want to
this as
find
we,
a company
push
that
towards our goals,
has insane
which are-
technology, which
Yeah. So
is this,
uh,
and they can scale. So
this is
they
just
don't just
for,
make a prototype and
just
it
talking
stops there.
about,
If
Tesla
they can
internal
scale
cell
to
production,
hundreds
as
of
I talked about
thousands,
earlier, we will
millions,
continue to use our
that's when
suppliers, Panasonic and
you got a long-term
LG,
investment there.
CATL.
So this
Um,
is
and
insane.
So this is 100 gigawatt hours supplemental to what we buy from suppliers.
So
and And
most
yeah,
you homies
essentially,
that hopped on
this
board
does, like,
when
reduce
we
our
did
weighted
last year.
average cost of a cell because
Oh man,
but it allows us to make a lot
we
more
we
cars
jumped on
with a lot more
board
stationary storage.
super early,
And then long term, we're
and it was
expecting
all
to make on the
it was
order
all
of,
that Maxwell
3,000
acquisition
gigawatt
that
hours or
I
3 terawatt
expected
hours per
was
year.
going to turn to this. This is
I think
nuts.
I think we've got a good chance of achieving this actually before 2030, but I'm highly confident that we could do it by 2030.
When you look at the size of that factory on the previous page, it really shows how enabling all of these advancements are in achieving a 3 terawatt hour goal by 2030. And not only is all of that manufacturing innovation fantastic for enabling scale,
Cost reduction of
it's also
32%.
an additional 18% reduction in dollar per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level.
But wait, there's more. Yeah.
So we have a manufacturing system. We've got a cell design. What are the active materials we're going to put in that cell design? Let's talk about the anode first.
No cobalt, please.
Let's talk about silicon. Why is silicon awesome? It's awesome because it's the most abundant element in the Earth's crust after oxygen, which means it's everywhere. It's sand.
Yeah. Sand is silicon dioxide.
Yeah. And it happens to store 9 times more lithium than graphite, which is the typical anode material in lithium-ion batteries today. So why isn't everybody using it? The main reason is because the challenge with silicon is that it expands 4x when fully charged with lithium. And basically, all of that expansion stress on the particles start
That's what wears
cracking,
down the battery.
They start electrically isolating. You lose capacity. The energy retention of the battery starts to fade. And it also gums up with a passivation layer that has to keep reforming as the particles expand.
This is why, like, a cell phone, for example, only lasts like 2 years, for example, is because of that expansion, and it can no longer hold a charge as well. So that's
that you're all in.
They're talking about the problem.
Are involved highly engineered, expensive materials in the scheme of things. Now they're still great, and they enable some of the benefits of silicon. They just don't enable all of it, and they're not scalable enough. And you can see some of the things that maybe you've heard of: SiO, silicon with carbon, or silicon nanowires. I mean, that's kind of the space right now. What we're proposing is a step change in capability and a step change in cost. And what that really is to just go
$1.2
silicon itself. Don't engineer.
Did I see $1.2 per kilowatt?
Start with that and design for it to expand in how you think of the particle in the electrode design and how you code it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you saw this. Basically, $1 per kilowatt hours.
$1.
If you use simple silicon, it's dramatically less than even the silicon that is currently used in the batteries that are made today.
Holy crap!
And you can use a lot more of it.
The anode would cost, with this
$1.
The anode costs $1.20 a kilowatt hour.
What the heck? That is nuts. Okay, just to put that in perspective, about $10 per kilowatt hour is about, let's say for a Model 3, that's about $7,000 for a battery pack. So they cut it down 10 times. So from $7,000 for a whole battery pack, it may now be $700 a battery pack. Or per module, sorry.
And in the end,
and I think each car has 4 modules, so that from $7,000 to like $2,800 or something like that. That's
it gets cheaper
pretty crazy.
And longer range.
I'm not sure if it's per module or for the whole pack, but that's a
yeah. And when we take that anode cost reduction, we're looking at another 5% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction.
That's
at the
crazy number.
Level. And there's more. Let's talk about cathodes.
This is what's going to make electric cars extremely affordable, or higher margin so that they can expand faster, whichever they decide to do.
And the lithium is the book. And really, what sets apart these different metals is how many books of lithium they can fit on the shelves and how sturdy the shelves are. Cobalt is a...
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to say, like, it's tough to exactly figure out what the right analogy is to explain cathode and anode, but a bookshelf is probably a pretty good one. In the sense that you need a stable structure to contain the ions. So you want a structure that does not crumble or get gooey, or basically that holds its shape in both the cathode and the anode. As you're moving these ions back and forth, it needs to retain its structure. So if it doesn't retain its structure, then you lose cycle life and your battery capacity drops very quickly.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And I think people are always talking about like, oh, what's the cathode going to be? Is it NCA or whatever? You know, the thing to consider is just fundamentally what the nickel, the metals are capable of, and that's what we have on the chart here. Dollar per kilowatt hour cathode of just the metal, using just LME, you know, London Metal Exchange prices, versus the energy density of just the cathode. And you can see nickel is the cheapest and the highest energy density, and that's why increasing nickel is a goal of ours and really everybody's in the battery industry. But one of the
Less
reasons why cobalt is even used at all
harsh on the
is
environment
because
as well.
it is a very stable bookshelf. And the challenge with going to pure nickel is stabilizing that bookshelf with only nickel. And that's what we've been working on with our high nickel cathode development, which has 0 cobalt in it, leveraging novel coatings.
There we go. That's what they were trying to do.
We can get a 15% reduction in cathode dollar per kilowatt hour.
Wow. Wow. Another 15% reduction. Wow.
But it's not just about nickel. You want to?
Yeah, sure. So in order to scale, we really need to make sure that we're not
I gotta go to the
constrained
restroom.
by
I'll be right back.
availability. I actually spoke with the CEOs of the biggest mining companies in the world and said, please make more nickel. It's very important. And so I think they are going to make more nickel. But there's also, I think we need to have a kind of a 3-tiered approach to batteries. So starting with iron, that's kind of like a medium range, and then nickel manganese as sort of a medium plus, intermediate, and then high nickel for long range applications like Cybertruck and the semi. Something like a semi truck, it's extremely important to have high energy density in order to get long range. So and just to give sort of iron a bit more time, like although if you look at the watt-hours per kilogram at the cathode level of iron, it looks like nickel's twice as good. But when you've fully considered at the pack level, everything else taken into account, nickel is about maybe 50 or 60% better than iron. So iron is a little better than it would seem when you look at it at the pack level fully considered. It's not as good as nickel. Nickel is like 50 to 60% better, but it's actually pretty good. And so, good for stationary storage and for medium range applications where energy density is not paramount. And then, like I said, for intermediate, it's kind of a nickel manganese. And it's relatively straightforward to do a cathode that's 2/3 nickel, 1/3 manganese.
Are you talking about
which would then
414
allow,
after hours?
Us to make 50% more cell volume with the same amount.
Orion?
And with very little energy trade-off. I mean,
Yeah.
Just enough to have you still want to use 100% nickel for something like a semi.
Oh yeah,
but really not
it did
much
go.
of a sacrifice.
It did
Yeah.
go down. This is.
Beyond the
I don't-
metals, because a lot of people spend time talking about the metals. Actually, the cathode
I
process
can't comment
itself
on
is a
the
big
share
part
price
of it.
yet.
35% of the
Yeah,
cathode
if it
dollar
keeps
per
going
kilowatt
down, if you guys
is
have
just in
capital,
transferring it into its final
man.
form.
If you
So
guys
we see
bought
that
when
as a big
it
target.
dipped to
We decided to take
375,
that
that was a hot
Here's
buy.
a view of the traditional cathode process. Effectively, if you start at the left and you have the metal from the mine, the first thing that happens is the metal from the mine is
Yeah,
changed
we'll
into
discuss
an
that in a little
intermediate
bit.
thing called a metal sulfate, because that's just happened to be what chemists wanted a long time ago. And then when you're making the cathode, you have to take this intermediate thing called metal sulfate, add chemicals, add a whole bunch of water, a whole bunch of stuff happens in the middle, and at the end, you get that little bit of cathode and a whole bunch of wastewater and byproducts.
Yeah, it's insanely complicated. If you look at the total, like if you're just like, it's a small world journey of I am a nickel atom. What happens to me? And it's crazy. Like you're going around the world 3 times. There's like the moral equivalent of like digging the ditch, filling the ditch, and digging the ditch again. It's total madness, basically. And these things just grew up as they're just kind of like legacy things that it's like how it was done before. And then they connected the dots, but really didn't think of the whole thing from like a first principle standpoint, saying how do we get from the nickel ore in the ground to the finished nickel product for a battery. And so we've looked at the entire value chain and said, how can we make this as simple as possible?
And that's what we're proposing here with our process. As you can see, a whole lot less is going on here. We get rid of the intermediate, metal, water, final product cathode, recirculate the water, no wastewater at all. And when you summarize all of that, it's a 66% reduction in CapEx investment, a 76% reduction in process cost, and zero wastewater. Much more scalable solution.
Personally, I don't. I think.
And then when you
I think there's
going to
be a price upgrade.
We're actually just directly consuming the raw metal nickel powder.
There's definitely going to be a price upgrade. This is. I would be blown away if not.
So we can eliminate billions in battery grade nickel intermediate production. It's not needed at all.
Yeah.
And we can also use that same process we showed on the previous page to directly consume the metal powder coming out of recycled electric vehicle and grid storage batteries. So this process enables both simpler mining and simpler recycling.
Okay, that's great because they can reuse batteries.
Process, obviously, we're going to go and
in a much cheaper way by recycling batteries.
North America and leveraging all of the North American resources that exist for
which would actually be
lithium.
Cheap too, because they can reuse the materials.
Localizing our cathode supply chain and production, we can reduce miles traveled by all the materials that end up in the cathode by 80%, which is huge for cost.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, cathode production would be part of the Tesla cell production plant. So it would just be, basically, raw materials coming from the mine, and from raw materials in the mine, out comes a battery.
And on that note, the way the lithium ends up in the cell is through the cathode. So then we should obviously on-site lithium conversion as well, which is what we will do using a new process that we're going to pioneer. That's a sulfate-free process again, skip the intermediate. 33% reduction in lithium cost, 100% electric facility co-located with the cathode plant.
Yeah.
Wow, sulfate-free.
So it's important to note that there is a massive amount of lithium on Earth. So lithium is not like oil. There's a massive amount of it pretty much everywhere. In fact, there's enough lithium in the United States to convert the entire United States fleet to electric. Like all the cars in the United States, there's like 300 million or something like that. Every vehicle in the United States can be converted to electric using only lithium that is available in the United States.
Discovered today.
What we already know is exists.
People really haven't even been looking.
Yeah, people haven't been trying because it's just like widely available. So, but it is important to say, like, okay, what is the smartest way to take the ore and extract the lithium and do so in an environmentally friendly way? And we actually discovered a...
I wish we bought some at 375 also. I mean, I bought some at 480, 440.
We found that
and
we can actually use table salt.
I think we bought some at like 415 also.
Extract the lithium from the ore.
I typically break up purchases in chunks. I learned my lesson in the past to not buy everything at once. Otherwise, if I did, I would have bought everything at 480.
Sort of, all the elements are reusable. It's a very sustainable way of
you always
lithium.
Kind of have to watch a market.
And we actually we actually got rights to a lithium clay deposit in Nevada.
Over 10,000 acres.
Over 10,000 acres. And then the nature of the mining is actually, I think, also very environmentally sensitive in that we sort of take a chunk of dirt out of the ground, or remove the lithium, and then put the chunk of dirt back where it was. So it will look pretty much the same as before, and it will not look like terrible, and yeah, it'll be nice. Nice.
Yeah.
So
simply mix clay with salt, put it in water, salt comes out with the lithium, done.
I mean, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So we're really excited about this, and there really is enough lithium in Nevada alone to electrify the entire U.S. fleet.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, just what's in Nevada. That's basically there's so much damn lithium on Earth. It's crazy. It's one of the most common elements on the planet.
And eventually, as we said at the beginning, when we get to this steady state 20 terawatt hours per year of production, we will transfer the entire non-renewable fleet of both power plants, home heating and battery and industry heating and vehicles to electric. And at that point, we have an awesome resource in those batteries to recycle to make new batteries. So we don't need to do any more mining at that point. And you can see why.
Yeah.
The difference in the value of the material coming back from the vehicle versus the ground, you'd always go to the vehicle. And we recycle 100% of our vehicle batteries today. And actually, we are starting our pilot full-scale recycling production at Gigafactory Reno next quarter to continue to
Redwood.
develop this process as our recycling returns grow.
Yeah, I mean, to date it's been done by third parties, but we think we can recycle the batteries more effectively, especially since we know our batteries, we're making the same battery as the thing we're recycling. So whereas like third-party recyclers have to consider batteries of all kinds.
Yeah, and just to think about what this actually
That makes a lot of
means,
sense. It's
the
way more
recycling
efficient
resource is
to
always 10 or
literally
greater
recycle
years
your own
delayed
batteries.
because batteries last a really long time. But eventually, it is the way that all resources will be made available, and that's why we're investing in this recycling facility in Nevada.
Yeah.
So a lot
Long-term,
of
new batteries will have old
analysts
batteries, once the fleet
still
reaches
think
steady
Tesla
state.
is a car
Okay,
company
So we
only.
just talked about scaling cathode and recycling.
Man, once they take over the energy
all of the
sector,
benefits that you
I
just
think that's
saw
gonna
are added to
dwarf
this benefit of a 12%
the car
reduction in
market.
dollars per kilowatt hour at the
dwarf
battery
it.
pack level.
If you think
Almost at our
Tesla
half the
as a
cost
car
goal,
company is
but
going
there's one
to
more section.
be as crazy
Take it
as
away,
they
Ian.
are with all this stuff that they're talking about,
So
gosh,
there's
imagine
an
them
architecture
taking
that,
over all the
we've
utility
been wanting to do
companies.
with Tesla for a long time, and we finally figured it out. And I think it's the way that all electric cars in the future will ultimately be made. It's the right way to do things. So it starts with having a single piece casting, or a single piece casting for the front body and the rear body. And in order to do this, we commissioned the largest casting machine that has ever been made, and it's currently working just
This thing is
over the road.
extremely
at our,
underrated.
Fremont plant. We have the it's pretty sweet.
This machine can
making
punch
the,
out
currently
the rear
making
casting of the
entire,
car
rear
in one
section of the
piece.
car as a single piece, high pressure die cast aluminum. And in order to do this, we actually had to develop our own alloy because we wanted a high strength
I'll let him
casting
speak.
alloy that did not require coatings
summarize
or
it.
heat treatment. This is a big deal for castings, especially with a large casting. If you heat treat it afterwards, it tends to deform. It kind of like does this like potato chip thing. So it's very hard to keep a large casting to have its shape. So in order to achieve this, there was no alloy that existed that could do this. So we developed our own alloy, a special alloy of aluminum that has high strength without heat treat and is very castable. So that's
So
it's a great
if
achievement of our
a couple of
materials
you
team.
guys do follow Sandy
In
Monroe,
fact, in
this is
general,
what
we've
he's
got a
talking
lot of
about
advanced materials
why
coming for Tesla that
he had
new
no clue
alloys
why
and
Tesla
materials that have
developed
never
their own
existed before.
alloy, and this is the
So,
explanation to why
So
there's
basically making
special
the front and rear of the car as a
materials
single
that they
piece,
have that are
and
unique. No other
then that
manufacturing company
that
has
interfaces
these materials.
to what we call the structural battery, where the battery for the first time will have dual use. The battery will both have the use as an energy device and as structure. This is absolutely the way things are done. In the early days of aircraft, they would carry the fuel tanks as cargo. So the fuel tanks actually were quite difficult to carry. They were like basically worse than cargo. You had to kind of bolt them down.
Oh, I see where
It
he's
was very
going with this.
difficult,
It's not
and
flammable,
then somebody
so
said,
it's
"Hey,
going to be
what if we
used
just make
as
the wing tanks,
part
what if
of
we just
the
make
car's
fuel tank
structure."
in wing shape?" So
This
all
is
modern
crazy.
airplanes, the fuel tank, your wing is just a fuel tank in wing shape. This is absolutely the way to do it. And then the fuel tank serves as dual structure, and it's no longer cargo. It's fundamental to the structure of the aircraft. This was a major breakthrough. We're doing the same for cars. So
Okay, this is interesting. Because of the
So this
acid
is
in
really
the
quite
batteries before,
profound.
if the batteries ever got punctured or there was like
effectively,
heavy impact on the battery,
non-cell portion
it would
of the
cause
battery has negative mass.
combustion, fires,
So
things like that.
we
But
save
since
so much mass in the rest
this
of the
is
vehicle, we save more
acidless,
mass in the rest of the
this
vehicle
is
than the non-cell portion of the battery. So it's like, well, how do you
they could
really
use it
minimize
as
the
structure.
mass of
If you
the
crush the
make
battery, it
negative,
doesn't do
make
anything.
The battery non-cell portion of the battery pack negative. It also allows us to pack the cells more densely because we do not have intermediate structure in the battery pack. So instead of having these like supports and stabilizers and stringers and structural elements in the battery, we now have a lot more space in the battery because the pack itself is structural. And what we do
Oh my
essentially,
gosh, this is straight genius.
like instead of having just a filler that is a flame retardant, which is currently what is in the 3NY battery packs, we have a filler that is a structural adhesive, as well as flame retardant. So it effectively glues the cells to the top and bottom sheet. And this allows you to do shear transfer
there's no
between the
tabs.
upper and lower sheet. Just like if you have like a Formula One craft or like a racing boat, and you have carbon fiber face sheets and say aluminum honeycomb between them, this gives you incredible stiffness, and it's really the way that any super fast thing works. Is you create a basically a honeycomb sandwich with two face sheets. This is actually even better than what aircraft do, because aircraft do not do this. They can't do this because fuel is liquid. So in our case, the batteries are solid. So we can actually use the steel shell case of the battery to transfer shear from the upper and lower face sheet, which makes for an incredibly stiff structure, even stiffer than a regular car.
Yeah.
In fact, if this was like a convertible that had no upper structure, it would be stiffer than that convertible would be stiffer than a regular car. So this is it's just really it's really major. So it improves the mass efficiency of the battery, and then those castings are also quite important because you want to transfer load into the structural battery pack in a very smooth, continuous way, so you don't put arbitrary point loads into the battery. So you kind of have to, you want to sort of feather the load out from the front and rear into the structural battery. It also allows us to use to move the cells closer to the center of the car, because we don't have the in the top one we've got that sort of all the supports and stuff. So the
better center of gravity too,
of the structural
and
pack
efficiency
is much better than a non-structural pack, and we actually bring the cells closer to the center, and because they're closer to the center, it reduces the probability of a side impact potentially contacting the cells, because it has to go in any kind of side impact has to go further in order to reach the cells. It also improves what's called the polar moment of inertia, which is that you can think of like when there's ice skater, arms out or arms in. Arms in, you rotate faster.
Wow,
So
the pack
if
is
you
literally part of the
bring things
structure.
closer to the center,
It's on the
you reduce
rails.
The polar moment of inertia, and that means the car maneuvers better.
That's
It just
crazy.
feels better. You won't know why, but it just feels more agile. So it's really cool. This is really major. Like I said, so 10% mass reduction in the body of the car, 14% range increase, 370 fewer parts. So.
Wow, that's crazy.
I mean, I really think that long term, in any cars that do not take this architecture will not be competitive.
And it's not just at the product level a better product, but in the factory, it's a massive simplification. You saw the part removal. It's casting machines. It's the structural battery pack. So we're looking at over 50% reduction in investment per gigawatt hour.
Basically, robots can do it, is what they're
We'll continue
saying.
to improve that as we make the vehicle factory of the future.
Wow.
Yeah, so major improvements on all fronts, from the cell all the way to the vehicle.
And in addition to the improvements we just said on enabling additional range and improving the structural performance of the vehicle, it is worth another 7% dollar per kilowatt hour reduction at the battery pack level, bringing our total reductions now to 56% dollars per kilowatt.
Wow. So those are all the things in conjunction, dropping the price 56% per kilowatt hour.
All right, so stacking it up. We're not just talking about cost or range. We've got to look at all the facets. So range increase, we're unlocking up to 54%.
These are mind-blowing numbers right now.
And energy density for our energy products. 56% reduction in dollars per kilowatt hour at the battery pack level, and a 69% reduction in investment per gigawatt hour, which is the true enabler when we talk back about how do we achieve this scale problem here.
Yeah. So I think it's pretty nice that investment per gigawatt hour reduction is 69%. I mean, who would have thought?
Yeah, just happened to happen out that way. Yeah.
Stupid.
I mean, 0.420%, of course. So what this enables us to do is achieve a new trajectory in the reduction of cell cost. And now, to be clear, it will take us probably a year to 18 months to start realizing these advantages, and probably to fully realize the advantages, probably it's about 3 years or thereabouts. So, it's not like if we could do this instantly, we would. But it's really I think what this bodes for, it just really bodes well for the future, and means that the long-term scaling of Tesla and the sustainable energy products that we make will be massively increased. So, what tends to happen as companies get bigger is things tend to slow down. Actually, they're going to speed up.
And they have to speed up if we're going to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy.
Yeah. I mean, long term, we want to try to replace about, at least 1% of the total vehicle fleet on Earth, which is about 2 billion vehicles. So long term, we want to try to make about 20 million vehicles a year.
But I think it's important to point out that when we talked about 3 terawatt hours by 2030, the problem is a 20 terawatt hour problem. So everybody needs to be accelerating their efforts to accomplish these objectives. Doesn't matter where you are in the value chain, there is a ton to do. You need to rethink from first principles how you do it so that you can scale to meet all of our objectives.
Yep.
And Elon?
Sure.
What does this mean?
What does it mean for what does this mean for our future products? We're confident that long term we can design and manufacture a compelling $25,000 electric vehicle.
What?
So
that's cheaper than a Honda Civic.
This has always been our dream from the beginning of the company. I even wrote a blog piece about it because our first car was an expensive sports car, and then it was like slightly less expensive sedan, and then finally sort of a mass market premium, but like the Model 3 and Model Y. But it was always our goal to try to make an affordable electric car, and I think probably, like I said, about 3 years from now, we're confident we can make a very compelling $25,000 electric vehicle that's also fully autonomous.
And when you think about the $25,000 price point, you have to consider how much less expensive it is to own an electric vehicle.
Yeah.
So actually, it becomes even more affordable at that $25,000 price point.
Yeah. So we have and extreme performance and range, and we should probably talk about the Model S Plaid. What about that?
Here we go, guys. Plaid. Under 2 seconds. Wow.
Yeah.
Over almost 600 miles.
Anyway, we took the latest Plaid out to Laguna Seca on Sunday. It got a minute 30, and we think probably there's another 3 seconds or more to take off that time. So we're confident the Model S Plaid will achieve the best track time of any production vehicle ever, of any kind, two-door or otherwise.
Holy shit. That's ridiculous.
And you can order it now, and it's available basically end of next year. So, and now we'll move to Q&A.
Absolutely.
So we'll invite a few people on stage.
Come on up, team.
This is just a small portion of the team, but it would be great to show you some more of the team. And
man, this is just straight mind-blowing from start to finish.
Give various people different questions to answer.
Sounds great. Actually, I don't know how we're getting the questions.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Actually, I don't know either. Is somebody gonna read them to him? Okay, well, you could just you can maybe get out of the car for 2 seconds and yell it at us. I don't know. Hey, how do we get any questions?
Oh, they're mics. Okay, wait for the mic.
There are mics. Okay, great.
All right.
Okay, we'll definitely need to give people mics because otherwise, there's no way. Sorry? All right, we're going to pass some mics out. We don't have a name for the $25,000 car yet.
It's a great question, though.
Yes, we will be manufacturing cells in Berlin. Yep.
Thermal management system? For homes.
Oh, you mean like the home HVAC? Yeah, I mean, that's a pet project that I'd love to get going on. I don't know, maybe we'll start working on that next year. Because I just think man, you could really make a way better home HVAC system that's really quiet and super efficient and yeah, super energy efficient, and also has like a way better filter for particles, and yeah, just and it works very reliably. And we've already developed that for the car. Like, so the heat pump in the Model Y is really pretty spectacular. I mean, it's tiny, it's efficient, it has to last for 15 years. It's got to work in all kinds of conditions, from the coldest winter to the hottest summer. So we've actually already done a massive amount of the work necessary for a really kick-ass home HVAC. And they could also like stack them. So if you want to say, depending upon the size of your house or whatever, how much you need, you can just basically stack them.
Stocks are going to go up. I just don't know where it's going to go.
Communicate with the car, and it'll know when you're coming home. So it's like, oh, I need to keep the house.
There's got to be a price
day.
upgrade.
Cool
They did something that
so
that caught everyone off guard.
Communicate with the car and just like really dial it into when you actually
people
need cooling and heating.
Yapping about a 1,000,000-mile battery, but
fun product.
I think that all the stuff that they talked about today is way beyond the 1,000,000-mile battery.
From Tesla Owners Club, my Tesla Adventure. Just a quick question.
There has to be a
I'm
price
huge
upgrade.
fan of
I just don't know what it's
going
to be.
With my dream case, like my all-time
but you never know.
activity.
Wall Street is pretty messed up.
Is it going to be possible to get climate control to the back of the Cybertruck? Because that would be the ultimate camping machine if you can get all-night climate control.
We'll try to do that. Yeah, I agree. That would be really cool.
Yeah. Man. They didn't improve like one thing on the batteries. They improved literally every
great guy.
aspect of the battery.
Just a question: how does the ICE industry look like for in the future?
Well, I don't think there will be an ICE industry long term. So yeah. I mean, well, I guess there might be like a few things that are like, it's a like curious thing. Like, I mean, there's still like some steam engines made somewhere, but like they're just basically sort of quirky collector's items. I mean, that will be the future of the internal combustion engine car.
Hi, Elon, to your left here in the white Model Y. Ryan McCaffrey from the Ride the Lightning Tesla podcast. Curious about Cybertruck. It was interesting to see where you had
you hear that plug?
On the battery technology front. I'm sort of curious what you see for it in the production front. Is its volume, trucks are so popular in America, do you see its volume equaling the 3 or the Y in the future? And also, is were you able to get Tesla is able to legally be sold in Texas as part of the Giga Texas deal?
Well, it's hard to say what the volume exactly would be for the Cybertruck. The orders are gigantic, so. And we have like, I don't know, well over 500,000 orders. I think maybe 600,000 or 600,000. That's a lot, basically. We stopped counting. So I think there's probably room for, I don't know, at least like a unit volume of like 250 to 300,000 a year, maybe more. Now we are designing the Cybertruck to meet the American spec, because if you try to design a car to meet the global, the superset of all global requirements, it basically, you can't make the Cybertruck. It's impossible. It really is designed for the American market, but this is the biggest market. Our North American market is the biggest market for pickup trucks by far, or large pickup trucks. And then I think we'll probably make an international version of the Cybertruck that'll be kind of smaller, kind of like a tight Wolverine package. It'll still be cooler, but it'll be smaller, because you just can't make a giant truck like that for most markets. So yeah, but it's gonna be great. And I don't know. I think probably we'll be able to sell
Yeah.
directly in Texas. We
0
do
to
pretty
16
well right now.
under 2 seconds.
But it is a bit weird not being able to actually complete a
Freaking-
transaction in Texas.
What was
but
that?
it's
Did they
gotta
say
be like,
1100
click it
horsepower?
on a server based in California. So, but weirdly, we can do leasing in Texas, but not selling. But hopefully that'll get cleared up in the future.
Yeah, Elon, great job with everything that you're doing. Thras Gerber from Gerber Kawasaki, your team's amazing. What I'm most curious about, these innovations are incredible, but on my drive up here, fully on autopilot for 400 miles, the entire state is brown, and this is ultimately about climate. Has there been some analysis done if all these things are achieved? What will its direct impact be on climate?
Well, I mean, I think it will have a very significant impact because it will stop the CO2 ppm from growing as it is every year. And I mean, I should say, like, I try to view the whole climate thing as a science question as much as possible. Science, you always question your hypothesis. Is it true? Is it not true? Or assign a probability to a given hypothesis. And I should say that my original interest in electric vehicles predates the climate issue. Like just when I was in high school, I thought, man, if we don't figure out electric cars, the whole economy is going to collapse when we run out of oil. So it's like, we better figure out electric cars and sustainable energy, or civilization is going to crumble. And then it was only kind of later that the significance of the climate risk became apparent. We were also able, using fracking and other types of technology, to access a lot more fossil fuels than previously thought, which is, helpful for lowering the cost of gasoline, but it's pretty bad for the total tonnage of CO2 that you could put in the atmosphere. It's now greatly beyond what people previously thought. So, but this is, as we were just going through in this presentation, it's like it is a absolutely monumental task to accelerate the advent of sustainable energy. I mean, the entire global economy is still, more than 99% dependent on, or roughly 99% dependent on fossil fuels. So although electric cars kind of get a lot of press right now, they're still, and there's still very few, as a percentage of the total global fleet, is practically nothing. I would say, yes, less than 1% of the global fleet is electric right now. Because of 2 billion cars and trucks and whatnot in use. So there's a massive amount of work ahead, just insane, like hard to comprehend how much work is ahead to get the new vehicle production to be sustainable, to massively increase the amount of stationary storage, which is critical because renewable energy is intermittent. Wind and solar is intermittent. Sometimes the wind doesn't blow, and obviously sun doesn't shine at night. So you got to have batteries, a massive number of batteries. So
it's hard to measure in direct impact, but it's an experiment that we shouldn't be performing, and the sooner we can sort of end the experiment, the sooner we can kind of move on in a fully sustainable way that is actually lower cost. I mean, I think the thing that people haven't fully internalized is once we do get to the 25K car, the ownership cost of that car is incredibly lower than the prior car. And then on the solar side and wind, with the cost of solar and wind coming down and with batteries coming down with them, the actual cost of energy on the grid is going down. So we're sort of moving towards a sustainable, lower cost future. So there's not really a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's true. It is a false dichotomy to say that it's either prosperity or sustainability. This is often used, by oil and gas to say like, oh, well, do you want people to lose their jobs? Do you want lower people's standards of living? Do you want to, make all these economic sacrifices, really, in order to have sustainability? And the reality, as Drew was saying, is that a sustainable energy is going to be lower cost, not higher cost, than fossil fuels.
Elon, quick question for you, right here in front. First, thanks for having everyone, and as telling a friend, the one company to go work for that's going to have the biggest structural impact over the next 10 years at scale, it's probably Tesla. So kudos to everyone at Tesla for what they've done to this point and going forward. The two questions for you, as you've looked at the auto and the storage markets, I know you've talked about it at kind of 50-50 long term, but it seems like a lot of the battery cost curve achievements that that you've presented today really make some of these storage opportunities much more feasible over the next 5 years. And so I guess the first part of the question is, does your calculus upon learning and improving these things change on that 50-50 mix, or is there a role where storage becomes bigger? And then the second part of the question, with all these huge grand visions, who's going to be with Tesla from a corporate perspective accomplishing these things? Obviously, Tesla can't do it alone, but when you look at some of the traditional auto industry or power, et cetera, I don't see a lot of other Teslas.
Well, actually, so there's a lot of companies in China that I think are doing great work with electric vehicles and also with stationary storage. Although we don't see that much in the U.S. yet, but I think probably we will in the future. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we're doing everything we can to encourage other companies to move to sustainable transport.
So here's another interesting thing is right now he's talking about how little electric is, I guess, impacting the market in general.
You know, we really
so
try to tell
if you look at
these companies,
pretty much
hey,
all
you
of Wall
really
Street,
need to do
they're
this, or
invested
you
in
won't exist
oil.
in the future.
I mean, that's what
they don't believe
wars
it,
and stuff are about, is oil.
We've talked until we're blue in the face.
So
what
eventually,
there's
going to be a certain threshold where
we really are hopeful that
oil is just
also do what we're doing, and that
it's
will
just
make
gonna go away.
and
And once that threshold is
fundamental
broken,
market size perspective, like
and
we did the
renewable
first,
energy,
like,
which
ground
is
up
Tesla
work
batteries
to
or
show
their
the
cars,
size of the market
whatever,
in
solar.
terawatt hours, and they are roughly 50,
Once
50,
that threshold is
10
broken,
terawatt hours of
and
transportation,
like
10
let's say
terawatt hours
J.P.
for the
Morgan,
grid.
who
And
invests
part of that is because
billions of dollars
the grid
into
batteries,
oil,
because
has
when
to
you're making a
transition
power plant, you're making a large
their
investment,
investments from oil
our
over
25-year
to renewable energy.
assets are greater.
That's actually when we're going to see the
were
biggest
10-year
jump
kind
in
of
share
things,
prices and
the
things
grid
like that.
market would be bigger,
So
but because it's a longer duration
right
asset,
now, that's
they're
why it
roughly
is a long-term game, and we're gonna
Thinking
have to
long-term,
wait things out.
Is there any
But,
other segments
I mean,
that this
that's
new
just
battery will be
something I
able
wanted to point out.
disrupt or electrify beyond just the initial Model 2 or cheaper sedan, like a boat, boring company?
So in the short term, we probably will, I don't know how much we'll really see.
Okay, great. Man,
yeah, I'm just
it's
like a hint on the
ventriloquism here.
Galley.
We just get the sound out of the speaker, and you can't tell where the heck it's coming from.
Yeah, any hints, or is the Model 2 such a big deal because it decreases the cost of transportation that is really the disruption, or should we get hyped?
He's one of the guys I follow on
cost curve
YouTube
opens
also,
up different
by
vehicle
the way.
categories like a high passenger density bus, boring loop, boat, plane?
Well, I mean, there are batteries in limited production right now that do exceed 400 watt-hours per kilogram, which I think is about the number you need for decent range, medium range aircraft. And I think our batteries will, over time, start to approach the 400 watt-hours per kilogram range as well. Yeah, I mean, I think over time we'll see all modes of transport, with the ironic exception of rockets, transition to sustainability, or to electric, basically. On the rocket front, what we're planning to do is like about 80% of Starship is liquid oxygen, and we're actually already running a power line to be able to use wind power to create the liquid oxygen. So we're making some decent progress on sustainability on the rocket front, but there's just no way to have an electric rocket, and it's important for the future of life and consciousness that we become a multi-planet species.
So to break down what the guy's question, Galley's question was, is the density. So if they can get 400 watt-hours per kilogram of density for the batteries, they're going to be capable of doing
is likely
like
to see
VTOL
if
jets
they don't act fast
or planes.
to address
So
future
they're
supply. Tesla have
Boeing's going to be in
made the
trouble,
right
and
moves that are necessary, but there's a real worry that the potential
he's saying that
supply
it's very, very
issues and
possible.
price spikes will create a drag
So,
on the rest of the EV
Boeing might be in trouble
industry,
in about
and therefore
3 years
a
or so.
drag on global EV adoption. What advice would you give to the EV and mining industries to quickly solve this looming hurdles? Because for a sustainable energy future, the spice must flow. Thank you.
Yeah, indeed, the spice must flow. The new spice. I don't know. I think I'm not sure. I guess we can try to like basically overdo it in cell production and perhaps supply cells.
Yeah, that's
to
a good
others.
point. Boeing is already in trouble. But
we
I mean,
do
who
see
else
a
makes planes besides
fundamental
Boeing? I don't
constraint
even know
as
anybody.
total cell
But
production. That's why
man,
we're putting
imagine
so much effort
not
into
driving
making
around
cells,
anymore and
and
freaking
kind of reinventing,
little
trying to reinvent
jet,
every aspect of cell production from
pulls down into your cul-de-sac.
mining
You
ore
hop in
to
and
a
it drops you
complete
off at
battery
an
pack.
airport for you to,
Because it's a
fly
fundamental
somewhere else.
constraint. We're not getting into the cell.
Now you're doing
because
three-dimensional
we,
transportation instead of just
for
two-dimensional
hell of it,
on
it's because it's the
on the
fundamental
road.
constraint. It's the thing that is the limiting factor for rapid growth.
This is crazy, man.
But we could certainly try to overdo it on cell.
So
cell
that's why
production and perhaps
anyone that said Tesla's
sell
just a
cells
car
to
company,
others. Well, we are
that's where
going
you're
at
wrong.
Absolute top speed, so it's like.
Yeah, exactly, like an Airbus. Exactly like an Airbus.
But I think like just making really.
But yeah.
efficient
Oh,
cars
Airbus. Oh, I see what
and,
you're saying. Yeah, Airbus. Oh, I didn't even know.
Have lower drag
But I thought
coefficient,
Lockheed bought things from Boeing, though.
rolling resistance, efficient powertrains. I mean, that's kind of what we've done in order to make iron phosphate still have a good range. So the iron phosphate.
That's exactly what I'm saying, Van. 100% agree. They are a tech company.
While there are some limitations on the total amount of nickel produced every year, there's
that's what
really
analysts are getting
no
wrong.
limit
That's
on
the
the
reason
iron. There's so much
why
iron,
Tesla
it's ridiculous.
prices
So
have never
you can really
been
scale up,
accurate.
Iron phosphate.
I mean, that's one piece to it, but
at a
then
raw material
there's also a
basis,
lot of corruption in Wall
perhaps
Street too.
more than
But you know.
can nickel. But yeah.
And just to point out, when we were walking through this presentation, we intentionally
Because I thought
separated
Lockheed
all the
Martin
different
is
aspects.
more
The benefits of
kind of like
structural battery
NASA,
apply to a
where NASA
iron-based
contracts with
cathode
like
in the same way
SpaceX
they
to
apply
build
to a
space
nickel-based
shuttles.
cathode.
I thought
You get
Lockheed
longer range
contracts with
iron-based
Boeing to
vehicles.
build
And also the
like
silicon
fighter jets
benefit
and stuff.
can apply to the
I
iron-based
mean,
vehicles as well. So
maybe you
there's-
know more than
you
I
can
do.
do a lot to extend the
Correct me if I'm wrong.
of an iron-based vehicle, which is why it's a key part of the roadmap going forward. And then I invited Turner up here to talk about what the mining industry can do.
Yeah. Diversification on the cathode side is obviously massive, and EVs are all about efficiency. And so for the EV industry, for the vehicle industry, we need to see
Okay, I guess
powertrain
that makes
efficiency
sense.
really
I
increase
thought
at
Lockheed
all of the
was
companies matching Tesla powertrain efficiency.
Yeah,
so that everyone
okay,
can
that makes
have
sense what you're saying.
diversified cathode approach, where LFP is used in medium range and even really make a 300-mile vehicle with LFP. And really the goal that we were trying to present here was a model for vertical integration, strategic vertical integration that a lot of different people can do. What we need to see is vertical integration that shortens the process path from mine to cathode. And what we're doing here is novel, and we're trying to push the industry in that direction. So we're presenting a model here that anyone can follow.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think software is where it'll make you rich. 100%. I agree with you on that.
I think the key is to be smart about your chemistry choices.
Michael, the magic number is 400 watt hours per kilogram. That's based off density and density to the weight. Because obviously, if you don't have as much energy density and the plane is extremely heavy, you're going to not be able to travel very far. So I guess they did the math, and that 400 watt hours to 1 kilogram is that threshold.
Are you going to grow like crazy? And we're like,
and
yeah, we're going to grow
it doesn't seem like they're that far away. I think based off what they're saying, it's about 2 to 3 years away. So that's interesting. But yeah, I do agree with you too, Van.
Does Tesla have any
the thing about
future plans to make partnerships with music companies?
I still think
like
Apple is a different beast than what Tesla is.
Kind of expand your services.
I think they have a lot of hands into everything. So I think Tesla is more closely comparable to Amazon than it is Apple.
Well, we haven't really thought about that much.
The thing is, Amazon's disrupting so many different industries, or they gobbled them up.
Title on Teslas.
So yeah, they're just like gobbling up, other industries and just kind of
that people can choose from.
Taking over or disrupting that industry. Tesla's doing the same thing. Like they're trying to do HVAC systems.
I think actually,
I mean, VTOL jets.
the importance of entertainment and
I mean, eventually, once they have enough batteries, they can start
Um,
licensing
and
out
to
the
the degree that
batteries.
if you're just basically sitting in your car, the car is fully autonomous
Yeah.
and driving somewhere. It's sort of like being in a.
But yeah, I
you
think
know,
you're right.
the car is
The
essentially your chauffeur,
extreme margin
and-
is going to be
and
their
then,
fully self-driving,
the things
but
that
it's
become
hard for me to
important
bet
are,
on
okay,
that,
well,
to be
let's,
honest.
let's have good entertainment, and you know, if you want.
I mean, maybe the software
rewrite
rewrite that's going to happen in
then
next month
that
is
actually
going to be
starts
a
to become
game
much
changer,
more
and I'm,
important because
dude,
you're no
if
longer
it is a
spending
game
your attention
changer,
driving
then
the car.
the stock price is going to
So
go
it'll be extremely
bananas.
important in the future.
But
Should we do some of the
I can't really
questions?
say I'm investing in Tesla
Okay.
because of fully self-driving. I'm investing in Tesla because I see them doing really well long
Should we do
term.
the second one?
Yeah,
They're at
the first
least
one I think we already
another.
answered. Like if we're able to make enough cells,
I think there's still
which we'll
another
try to do, or we will supply
10x
other
company.
companies. It's definitely not an intentional effort to keep the cells to ourselves. If we can make enough for other companies, we will supply them.
Almost
We're
a
trying to
10x
do,
company
you know, the right thing
with fully
for
self-driving. I could
advancing the sustainable
shoot.
energy,
It's
whatever
beyond that.
that
10
is.
10
So-
10 to 15x.
Vehicle to grid, we get asked that a lot. I think one of the things that's important to note is the vehicle to grid.
What do you mean by
it doesn't-
MIML?
Unless you have a power cutoff, like you need to cut off your main supply to the grid. Otherwise, if you lose the power in your house,
You're welcome,
you'll
Michael.
basically just backflow energy to the grid. So just having a reversal in the power flow does not actually keep the lights on. You need a whole separate system to cut off power to the grid. And I think there's also the case that people really want the freedom to be able to drive and to charge at their house. And it's obviously really problematic.
Oh,
if,
gotcha.
You know, you get to
Gotcha. Okay, I got
morning
you.
and your car, instead of being charged, it discharged.
Michael,
into the house, and then
I think
you sort of,
if
now
I'm
I
being
can either drive
conservative,
or
I
use the
see
battery to power my
it's
house.
probably not
I
10x.
think
It's probably
it's
more
actually
like
gonna be better
7x,
for people's freedom of
7x or so.
action to have
In
a power wall,
in 10 years, if I'm being extremely
and a
conservative,
car
if I'm
separate.
being extremely
And then
optimistic,
it's,
I can
you
see
know, everything
15x
works.
in 10 years.
You know, and you add that, you basically combine that with solar.
From
either
this
solar
point in
retrofit
time,
or solar glass,
too.
solar glass roof, and local battery storage. So you basically become your own utility. And then
See, this is the piece
car is,
that people are
you know,
missing
can be
too is
charged also with solar.
the
I think that's like the stuff.
so
that
they're
works.
talking about
You know, that
vehicle
said,
to
like, we
grid,
can certainly
meaning
do
you can
vehicle
use
to
your
grid,
car as a
I think
home
we can-
battery
like, we can
system.
basically enable that with software in
I
Europe or
think this
something.
is a game changer right here as
Yeah.
well for
We
the
are-
Tesla
future
energy
generations of
side
power
still,
electronics, we will
because
be
if you
able
look
to
at the
do
energy
this more or
sector
less everywhere from a,
for
energy market participation
like power
perspective,
plants
but-
and
but
utility
yeah, from a
companies,
backing up the house and
that's like a
it
$2
just so
trillion
happens that the
company
way the
or
North
business.
American
That's about a
connectors
1.5
are on all
$2
the
trillion
cars in North America. It
business,
doesn't matter whether
which
it's
is
the
why I'm
Tesla
saying
connector or
it would totally
the connector that
dwarf
the other
the
vehicles have.
car
Doesn't
sector
actually
side of
support
things.
powering your home. It's unfortunate. So you need an
So what they're
additional
talking about is
hardware to
actually
do
very
that.
interesting
But yeah, in the future,
they've talked about it
all
before,
versions
but
of our
they're
vehicles will
someone's
be able
asking
to
the question
at
again.
least do bidirectional power flow for the purposes of energy market participation. But even for that, it's important to remember that your car isn't plugged in 24/7, so it's kind of an unpredictable resource for the grid. It'll have a value, but it's not the same as a stationary battery pack.
Yeah, honestly, a vehicle to grid sounds good, but I think actually has a much lower utility than people think. I think very few people would actually use vehicle to grid, and we actually had that with the original Roadster. We had vehicle to grid capabilities. Nobody used it.
They're kind of talking about that right now. So, I mean, that's why they have solar. I'm answering your question, Van. I think if basically he was saying that if you have enough solar panels up, it's enough. It's actually a stupid small amount of solar panels and their
Tesla has a good reputation for
Tesla
doing
battery
exciting engineering,
packs.
and that tends to attract
It's enough
a lot of the
to
top engineers in the world.
You know, when in need, they can
really,
take power
serve
from
the
that
grid good.
versus from the grid right now.
And we're super hardcore about engineering.
Yeah,
Tesla
I know
is
what you're
like
talking
first
about. Like
foremost
if you're
a
talking about like the
engineering
really
company,
small
it's
towns
hardcore
and stuff like
engineering is
that,
what we do.
I know what you're talking about.
The sheer
What's
amount
actually
of
very
hardware
interesting
engineering
is
done at Tesla is
there was a
insane.
project that they did
And
for
if you
free
look at, say,
for I think it was Australia, because they were having massive brownouts and things like that. So Tesla, on their dime, actually put a ton of power walls up for them.
So
and
sometimes
they
it's
put up,
Tesla
I think,
first,
some
sometimes
solar
SpaceX
or
first,
something
but
like
those are
that
the two
too,
top ones.
and it kept the system
Yeah, I
from
mean,
browning
if you
out.
are motivated
So
to
their
solve some of these
electrical
problems which are the
system is
hardest
now
problems
finally
in the world to
stable
solve
because
that
of
really
it.
fundamentally enable the future we all need.
But
Please
I kind of
reach
know what
out.
you're talking about.
Yeah, and help us
Where
work on these problems.
Absolutely, and
because
like you
obviously
said, the battle is far from over.
solar and wind are not
less than 1% of
100% because it's not always windy. It's not always sunny. That's what the batteries are for, and if you can store it when
maybe less than 0.1% of stationary
you know
storage
whatever
has been done.
the batteries are
So
full, you pull
storage has barely
from
begun,
those to keep electricity
converting
going.
the global
I
vehicle
don't know.
fleet to
I
electric
think
has barely begun. So there's
I
still
think
a
they can
massive
scale.
amount of engineering work to be done at Tesla and other companies to accelerate this transition to sustainability.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
This is Jordan from Mark Asset Management. So you've talked about the importance of the factory, and you've mentioned the ground-up design process and a lot of the new things that you're going to be doing or started to do in Shanghai, Berlin, and Austin. Can you just maybe help us understand and quantify like how financially meaningful all of those improvements will be? And then given what you're trying to accomplish as a company, is it fair to assume that
I guess
the vast majority of improvement will be given back to the customer in the form of lower prices?
how much power do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly.
How much power do you think a Tesla
we will,
draws, though?
Try to give back as much as possible to the customers. It's not like,
I mean, I guess excluding
it's not like Tesla's profitability is crazy high. Our average
excluding
profitability for the last 4
supercharging,
quarters
because